Hello, everyone, and welcome to the June workshop meeting of the Springfield Township Board of Commissioners. I believe we have a full slate of commissioners here. Yay, go us. How many Zoom attendees do we have, Craig? We don't have any Zoom attendees, but for those who can't see on the camera, there is a fairly full room today, which is nice to see. So thank you all for being here. Um, so a little bit of housekeeping, and for those who have not been here before, we will typically begin with our engineer's report, Mr. Woodrow. Then we will tackle any matters that people are present for, first pertaining to agenda items, then any remaining public comment. Then we'll proceed through our commissioner committee reports and our formal agenda as listed. So first, because it is a large room, I just want to take a quick poll of what folks are here for. And I'm going to say a couple items I already have at the top. Hold on. So we're going to do Tim, the engineering report. Give me a second here. We do have a deer study that's a deer presentation that is due to be presented at 8 p.m. So we're going to keep that there. All right. Other things that people are here for, please raise your hand or shout them out accordingly. Lands.
New skate park location.
Any other topics? So we'll do that after we do the things on the agenda. Okay. Give me 1 second, just kind of put a number on here so I know what I'm doing. All right. With that, did we receive any public comments prior to this meeting?
You have two public comments, one of which was alluded to just a few minutes ago, crosswalk, I guess I'll call it enhancements at Mermaid Park. And you have another one related to skate parks and proposed location for skate parks.
All right, and a reminder for those on Zoom that you cannot submit public comment online, but you may submit formal public comment prior to any meeting, the link being found on the agenda page. Right, so with that, we will move to Mr. Woodrow.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you for having me. There's a couple of items on your agenda that maybe I have some insight or input with regard to item number one. So recall a couple months back, we approved a subdivision of 28 Grove Avenue, existing home, building lot adjacent. So that is in process as we speak. Part of that obligation of the developer was to dedicate some additional right-of-way for Grove Avenue to us. The existing right-of-way for Grove Avenue is insufficiently sized to meet our current standards. And so it's a small strip of ground that will become public right-of-way if the board adopts this resolution on Wednesday night. So it's really just conveying some right-of-way from the private property to the public entity for future road improvements. Everybody good with that? Super.
This is just to make it conform, just a perfunctory matter.
That is correct. I think Andy has those documents prepared.
As a matter of course. Perfunctory, PER.
It's an area about 5 foot wide by 100 feet along
Yeah.
the length of the property, so.
Nothing of consequence for sure.
Okay.
The second item on your agenda this evening is Fox Lane Homes at Willow Grove Avenue. If you recall, Fox Lane Homes is developing the vast majority of the site in Cheltenham Township. There's one single family home that gets developed in Springfield Township and some additional storm sewer work for that new project. The item on your agenda is really PennDOT driven. A couple years back, PennDOT decided they wanted to reduce their financial obligations for long-term maintenance of the roads to the greatest extent possible. Storm sewer is one of the things that they are saying is no longer a PennDOT responsibility, but that of the township. Townships are saying, well, Mr. Developer, if you're going to put storm sewer in, we'll sign your application. But guess what? We're going to return those obligations to you through some kind of agreement. And so Andy, I think, has prepared those agreements that would suggest that if we are able to sign a PennDOT application on behalf of Fox Lane Homes, the township will be indemnified to future costs and liabilities that would occur, some period of time from now. If that storm sewer were to fail, need to be replaced or repaired in any way, that obligation would be on the developer. And so that agreement consideration is number 2 on the agenda.
And Tim, in the event, well, once the development's constructed, it'll revert to the homeowners
Association. Yep. Indeed.
And Tim, that, the requirement will be recorded, right? So that'll be part of title, so future owner would see that.
Yeah, it will be for sure. Yes. And it's a little more difficult with a private property, but with a homeowners association, they'll be responsible for the stormwater detention basins, the BMPs. So all of that storm sewer system kind of becomes part of that larger obligation for them. Great. Number 3 on your agenda is the J. Overcash Willow Grove Commons, we're calling it. This is the site adjacent to the old firehouse on Willow Grove Avenue. Planning Commission has seen that. Our STEMS emergency management folks have seen the project. Recall about a month ago or 2 months ago, this board authorized Andy to prepare a stormwater drainage easement across Veterans Park that would allow the water runoff from this project to be conveyed to the storm sewer system. That runoff, after being managed and treated on site, will discharge to a storm sewer system as opposed to running overland across our park and fields. There have been some drainage problems there that we are aware of over the years, and we are hopeful that this drainage problem will help improve that condition greatly. But those are the kind of key components of the application. I think there's a resolution for consideration for Wednesday night for approval of that project. So certainly any questions that anyone had about it, please, we're here.
What, can you describe how it would traverse the park and how that would take places would do that?
Yeah, a good question. So they have on their site a stormwater management facility. It's a combination of rain garden and peak rate control through an underground system. And when that metered water leaves the site, it will be piped. And so it's an underground pipe that runs through the back of those playing fields. So if you can picture the baseball fields, it's a third base line and a first base line, I think. So that storm sewer pipe will run parallel to those adjacent properties down to the end of the park where it will turn left and head down to Tramer Avenue. And there's a storm sewer system there already that will accept the runoff from this pipe. And through the park, we're going to install some inlets so that water that is now ponded in the park will have a place to drain. One of the things we talked to the Little League about is to locate those drains so that they're not interfering with play or with, cause a hazard to kids who are, trying to field a foul ball and hit this inlet. And so we're looking at various appropriate places along that path to put those inlets in.
Tim, I had a question. In several locations, in some of the approval letters, we talked about a waiver with the sidewalk width from 10 feet to 6 feet, but then in the final resolution, I saw it was 15 feet.
I think that is correct. So if you recall, there's a little bit of a conflict in our ordinance. Our ordinance talks about a 4-foot sidewalk and it talks about a 10-foot sidewalk. The sidewalk that is being proposed with this current Willow Grove Commons, I keep forgetting how they're naming Willow Grove Commons, is very consistent with that sidewalk that was built in front of the townhouses and in front of Enzo Pizza. So it is that same kind of configuration. And so I think it's more a clarification of the sidewalk width. It's more than 4, it's less than 10. It's that 8-foot, I think is what we're building.
Okay, so 8 is what is in front. One other question. I know we're doing the fee in lieu of dedicated open space. Maybe that's a question for Mike. How is that calculated?
You adopted a resolution a few years ago that increased the fee to $1,500 per residential unit. It had been $750 when it was initially adopted, and then we did a survey probably 2 years ago now of what other municipalities were charging. We want to be the front runner in be the highest. We didn't know if they didn't want to be low, where we were. So after evaluating it, like $1,500 seemed like the right
So
number.
it's per unit, it's not related to the square foot, other than the square feet within the units. Within requirements.
Correct, it's per residential unit, so 21 apartments times 1,500. Versus one single family home would be $1,500.
Okay, and then there's a little bit allocated for commercial space.
Actually, like that's kind of.
It's,
a
yeah,
gray
it's,
area.
right, it's all allocated for the residential primarily.
Okay.
For the recreational space,
For the,
that's
yeah,
correct.
for the recreation.
Is this is marks them spelled out in two separate,
Right,
21 dwelling units, and then the square footage. The commercial required additional 3750 square feet of recreation. So that's, is that,
I think they've been treated together
Yeah.
historically, with developments. So I think it covers both of them, and the resolution that Mike referenced really only sets the fee for residential units as opposed to commercial.
yeah. When we initially adopted the ordinance that created the fee in lieu of, we didn't have anything to begin with, right? And so in order to get to the fee in lieu of, you have to require dedication of land. And then the developer has the option, if they can't make the dedication of land, they can make an improvement to a park or they can pay a fee in lieu of. And the fee has to be reasonable, right? Otherwise, it's going to be contested. There was a municipality, my understanding, may have been Bucks County, that was kind of pushing the envelope with the commercial part of it. And it was challenged, and I don't know if it went all the way to the state level or not, but it was deemed to be unreasonable. So.
Yeah, Mike, I think too, there's a nexus between recreational space and residential housing. There's not so much a nexus between commercial space and the need for recreational space. So I
it's really
think,
relevant to the residential.
correct,
Commercial space is increasing, the fee in lieu would actually go down.
correct.
Right.
Is there anyone here representing the development at this time? My question is related to, in the first iteration of this, we saw some sort of facility for the residents' dog park or something like that, and we discussed whether it was at planning or here, perhaps there could be a pathway to connect that space to the park itself. And now I see the stormwater
Is kind of in the
area
way.
is sort
Yeah.
of there.
One
Would
of the
that
things, Suze,
inhibit any
that we've been
future
talking about
connection?
is perhaps with this fee in lieu of money, we've got a pretty good pedestrian connection along Willow Grove Avenue. And as you get down to the next driveway to get into Veterans Park, perhaps that would be an area where we could enhance that pedestrian connection from Willow Grove Avenue into the park through that area. Was an option, Mike, that I thought maybe made some sense.
And I think at some point there was a discussion of a walkway somewhere on, so there's some parking to the left of the building, as I see it aerially. And at some
Correct.
point there was discussion of walkway by the tree, in front of the parking so that they wouldn't cross behind the parking.
Yep.
Was that,
They've added that into the plan,
Okay.
Susie. They have, yes.
I'm just trying
Yeah,
to
all those things
recall
from all those
exactly-
conversations.
exactly what the
Absolutely.
difference is, so. Well, I only mentioned the connection because I think naturally what people are going to do is walk from that parking lot and walk across the park and walk over to the restaurant area regardless. And so I just want to be sure we're prepared to understand that that's going to potentially happen. And
Yep.
while we don't have a connection at this time, it seems like should we need to, we're going over land. All this stuff is underwater detention.
That's correct.
And so there would be a potential avenue to do something
We
if their
could-
opportunity arose.
Correct. Yeah, there is that one, above ground rain garden, but that berm on top of that rain garden would provide a great spot for a pedestrian connection. Yeah.
Hmm.
I see you come in, Mr. Boss. He snuck in.
And just for, I think for audience members who may not recall, the commercial units cannot sustain restaurants, right? This is purely non-food.
Yeah, they haven't
institutions.
parked with sufficient quantity to support a restaurant in that space, correct? I
They
think
don't.
they do
have-
not, right? So it's more office space, perhaps a chiropractor, some kind of accounting,
Half of it is the assigned to
Retail.
half of it is the virtual
office, yeah.
All right.
Can I ask a question about the
Sure.
landscape? Just as part of you to see what's incorporated, on the phone, but in your last letter, there was, some revisions that appeared or recommendations to you, those were incorporated.
Beth, I believe they were. I'm not recalling. So they were about to make a revised plan submission the other day, and we said, don't confuse us. The board has before them this evening, the plan that was revised in May. And I believe that we have discussed with the applicant's engineer their ability to comply with many of those recommendations. We'll be able to confirm that when we see the revised plans.
Any further questions on this land development application? All right.
Great. Item number 15, Susie, is the rec center. It's something that, certainly we've been working diligently at bringing to fruition. Boyle is here. Would you want to talk about rec center at this point? Would that be appropriate?
Well, before we do that, are there any
Yeah.
other engineering,
Questions, yeah.
non-rec center related questions for our engineer on engineering topics across town by my fellow commissioners? All right, seeing none,
Great.
then we'll try to check off the rec center, which is tab Q for everyone following along, because we have some guests here from Boyle Construction, who did our budget estimates, and Tim is going to stick around, fellow commissioners, to hear more. I don't know if you have a formal presentation, but if you would like to kick it off, you can do that.
So, hi, everybody. My name is Christian Donovan. I'm project executive with Boyle Construction. We are the for the rec center. I did not bring a formal presentation. I assume that you guys have all the packets. You see the budgets. You've seen it go from, schematic design, conceptual numbers into design development numbers. I was just going to kind of talk about that process a little bit, so you got a feeling for how we do that. And then just kind of open it up to questions for anybody that had any questions.
Sounds great.
Does that work?
Sounds great.
Okay. So we actually got involved early on during the feasibility study as a consultant for MKSD. We did some early cost estimating that round, which was very preliminary, based on sketches, based on some thoughts and ideas of what we had, 25,000 square feet, I think, at that point in time. So our numbers for that were coming in somewhere in the $18 million range, I think, if I remember correctly.
Pushing 20.
I think
Yeah,
it's
pushing
20.
20 once you put soft costs in it, which soft costs, for anybody that doesn't know, are architectural fees, engineering fees, CM fees, permits, all those types of things that you don't think about when you get the hard bids on the bid due day. So, with some discussions between the township and MKSD and Boyle, we ended up reducing the program down to about 15,000 square feet, a little over 15,000 square feet. I think that was the SD round. We creeped back up a little bit in DD, and we're now at about 16.3, give or take, in square footage. So once we get the DD drawings, we actually go through and we do a full-blown takeoff. We'll start from the ground up. We start at the site. This particular project has some demo, so we've got numbers in for demo for that. We've got, all the site, underground basin. There's some extensions of utilities and all those types of things. We figure all those in. We have unit prices that we've established for, over the last 30 years of being in business, but they get updated every time we get a new set of bids in. So the numbers are very recent. And then we go through, we'll do the whole thing just as if we were going to build it and go out to bid, as a GC. And then again, we add in all of our contingencies and our soft costs, and then we come up with the bottom line, which is what was presented to you guys. I do believe that Chris and Rob sent over a couple different analysis of that to kind of show where we went from SD to DD, and then also where we compared to Whitpain Township, for example, which just came in recently. And then also Doylestown Township, which is a very similar program to this one, with about 3-year bid difference. I think it was 2023 that one was bid and contracted. So interestingly enough, we now are sitting almost the same price for sticks and bricks as the Doylestown project. A little bit higher on a square foot basis, but we're really close. One thing that we can't really account for when we do these budgets is the anomalies you get on bid day. For example, Whitpain was an anomaly. We think Whitpain should have been closer to $18 million, $16 to $18 million. Just to further that, Upper Saukon Police Department just came in. We were not involved with that project at all. KCBA was the architect, but it was on Penn bid. So all the bids are accessible to all of us. That came in at between 11 million. I'm sorry, 11.22 on the low end and 14.4 on the high end. So again, a big spread and that was a 13,000 square foot building. Can't quite compare a police station to a community center because you've got a lot more open space, but it's just an interesting, anomaly that Whitpain came in at, $300 a square foot or whatever the exact numbers were. So just one of those things that I think we probably are going to see some bid day savings. We can't guarantee that. So we want to give you guys a realistic picture. We know it can be built for the number we gave you. And we hope that we do get some competitive bid day savings on that. And the other thing that happens as we move through the DD budget into the CD budget, we will reduce the design contingency because most of your design is already done. There's not going to be a whole lot more unknowns. We reduce that, and then we also reduce the construction contingency down to about 5%. But we still hold allowances, owner contingency allowances in each prime contract so that you are covered for anything that does come up, and that would all be covered under the construction budget.
I feel like it would be beneficial to members of the public who've not followed these numbers quite as closely, and maybe a reset for our commissioners here that, obviously we've been on this pathway to redo the rec center site at Willow Grove, formerly the $7 church building. Demolition will be needed. And originally when we set forth this path, after all of the public outreach, the desire was for a traditional construction, 2-story building with a walking track and so on and so forth upstairs. That concept was putting us at that $20 million number that we've now heard a couple of times. And we said, well, let's redesign that so that we don't have the second floor walking track, perhaps use a different type of construction. I forget the term for it. That's not, you're bringing in something prefabbed, for example, and putting it together rather than traditional construction methods to get the number down. So we've now gotten the number down at this point to 11.6, we'll call it 11.6, which is even further down than I think maybe 14, 15 at some point we were discussing. And so recently, Whitpain Township, they're building a new rec center. They actually went went out to bid, and the numbers came in at $10 million, more or less, to kit and caboodle, not only do a whole thing, but the whole thing that we originally were essentially quoted as $20 million for. So this conversation is around trying to square all of this information so that we can make a better decision about what to do next, how to proceed, and what to expect, and for the public to know what to expect, that this is the range that we're talking about. And Mike, do you want to add anything
The other
further?
thing I would add is that, the Whitpain building and the number that you just threw out was for construction costs only on bid day. It did not include any of the soft costs, such as the architectural,
Okay.
engineering, or any of those other items that are in there. Whitpain also had a number of items not included in their base bid that they ended up they'll end up having to pay for out of pocket after the fact, such as the gym floor. That's a big one. So there's over $1 million in those costs that they're going to have to absorb as well. So, if you were to look at it at face value, they got a heck of a deal. And they got a heck of a deal.
They did get a good
Compared
deal.
to what, the traditional bidding environment has looked like up to this point. And that's what Boyle is basing their estimate numbers on, at this point. Christian talked about an anomaly. Well, there were a couple of very aggressive bidders, that came in with some numbers that, good for Whitney. They're able to take advantage of that, but, they can't guarantee that for us right now. We can be hopeful for that. But they just want to put out a responsible number at this point so that we're not surprised, if numbers come in more in line with where their estimate is. The other thing that Christian didn't mention yet, and we haven't talked about, is the completion of the design development stage and moving into construction development is an opportunity for us to take a look at value engineering.
Yes.
Some of the materials that have been spec'd by the architects, things that we may or may not necessarily need, particularly in a building that's going to be a rec center. Some of the ceiling materials that have been specified by the architects might be a little bit over the top for a rec center, and we might be able to see some savings in some of those areas. So we haven't started that process yet, and we hope to be able to bring that number down further through that process.
Do you
Those-
have
Some of
any-
those things, sorry to cut you
Oh,
off,
go
but
ahead.
some of those things are real easy to do as alternates too. Like, okay, it really might be nice to have a nice wall like that to separate a space, or a nice cloud ceiling in a spot so that it guides you into a space. Well, maybe it's an alternate, so we can easily add that onto the bid document, say, hey, this ceiling's an alternate. It's going to be an add alternate. We don't like to do deduct alternates because you never get the full money back. So the add alternate is, if you want it, it'll cost you X dollars, and then we can make the decision after bid day. And it will still be a fair bid because all the primes will have the same alternate to bid, and it'll be spelled out pretty well. So that definitely, that VE, value engineering exercise, lends itself to coming up with a few things that, yeah, we really would like to have it, but it's not necessary. So maybe we put that as an alternate. And just to clarify on your comments on the construction type, yes, we did change the design from conventional steel structure to what they call pre-engineered metal building structure, which old days people would call them Butler buildings. There's a ton of different manufacturers out there. Still custom buildings, still custom designed, but what they have is different allowable spans and things like that they can do with their structure, so that we can size the structure down a little bit, basically, to get the same space. So we want to say that on a shell cost, that's probably around $30 a square foot savings to do that compared to regular construction, conventional construction.
Was there anything you needed about the builders approach, or was it just like a lost?
On whip paint?
Yeah.
No, in fact, so the mechanical and plumbing contractor we've worked with in the past, they've always had pretty reasonable numbers. They have a pretty good track record of being a low bidder. The GC we've never worked with before. They're very local to the project. Their office is, I think, a couple blocks away. So that helps a little bit. The site contractor, again, another one we've never worked with. Their foreman lives right across the street. So that starts, you don't think about that a whole lot, but it does start to add up in your general conditions. If I got to pay a guy to drive across the street or walk across the street as opposed to driving an hour to work, we can start to shape things down on a project that way. So I think we had some luck there. I think we had a little bit of a lull in bidding when whip paint was out to bid. A couple weeks ago we had, and I say we, I mean the state had a couple schools due, a couple police stations due, a couple emergency centers due. So that plays a big role in it too, the bid environment when we go out to bid. And I think the goal for this, if we move forward with the CDs, is get out to bid this fall yet. And then you're ready. You're hitting a good bidding season. You're getting ready to start at the beginning of the year. You can start your site work and demo in January and move right into the construction project. So hopefully that's another good time to bid it. And we don't run into the school people that are jacking up their bids, because I might get to school. So if I get to school now, I have to hire guys and stuff like that. So
I
How
know,
far up was the second?
so at Whipping, we actually had want to say we had three in, we'll just pick the GC, for example. We had three in like the 6.8 to 6.9 range on their contract. And then we had a group of three that was like 7.4 to 7.9. So quite a spread on that, but there were groups. And that's kind of typical on a public bid. You'll see a group, maybe you'll get one guy that's really an anomaly. But this one we had, three low bids, three high bids, and there was one or two guys in the middle.
I know it was a bit of an anomaly, but or were you able to get the information on maybe what they originally thought the number would come in at?
So these guys came in very late into the process, but they suspected that the numbers were gonna come in more along 18 million.
That's what you said.
We did, and so the architect hired a different cost consultant on that project. And their was 12.8 or 12.8 without contingency was their budget. So we came in, 25%, not we, but the bids came in 25% under their budget too. So again, pretty low.
All right.
You're setting the bar high.
Well, I think I'm not sure, there's not an action item at this moment that we have to take on the rec center, but I think we want to digest this and start to think about when we relate the next step, which more to come on that. And so at this time, if there's no other questions for Boyle,
I make one
I
comment?
appreciate that. Sure.
Yeah, just for the benefit of having a larger number of audience. One of the things we did very early on was look at the alternative of renovating the existing space that's there now. So, and we looked at that very closely, architects were involved, and the amount of money just to bring those buildings up to use was pretty high. And you're still ending up with two separate buildings that didn't really have great varied use. So we did that analysis.
Yep.
To not build new construction, really just new office.
Sure. And just, I realize you guys definitely want to stew over this a little bit more, meet amongst yourselves. Anything you need from us, just get with Mike and, we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Thank you. And before they leave, is there anyone in the audience who would like to make a remark on this topic in particular? All right. Well, thank you so much for coming and thank you for your presentation. That was enough of a presentation for me. Much appreciated.
All
I
right,
appreciate
thanks.
the hard work
Have a
to
great
bring
night, everybody.
the money down because we keep calling them and we keep calling you and saying, hey, can you do less? Thank you. Appreciate you. All right. I think the next topic we're going to hit, and I'm going to do it in this order. I think Canopy project is going to be quick, and then we're going to talk about lacrosse, skate park, and then I'll wrap around to natural lands, and then there's a public comment on Mermaid. All right. So just before everyone comes to speak, just a quick housekeeping matter for all of you. Please come to the mic to ensure everyone can hear you here and online, and so that those online can also hear you, and so that we can receive your comments. Be sure to begin with your name and where you live in the township, and try to keep your comments brief, and we will give priority to those who have not yet spoken on each topic. So next up is the Canopy project, which is tab P. Tab P, Canopy project and Mermaid Park. All right. Mike, can you describe to us the details that we need to know? Or do we allow them to do it? All right, beautiful. Let's do it. Hello.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for your time this evening and for considering this project. My name is Andrew Comboy. I'm a Plymouth Township resident and
I'm Karen Kabnick, a White Marsh Township resident, and together we run Community Canopy Project. Nice t-shirt, eh? And we are proposing to install about 0.68 acres of riparian buffer at Mermaid Park. We got a grant from the state to install that. It would be free of cost for you. And we would be doing all the work and getting volunteers to do all the work. It comes.
Could you speak into the microphone? Sorry. Or you could lower it or take it off as well.
Oh, it's
better.
Folks at home can't hear you.
That's okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, so we got a grant from the state, from the DCNR to plant 10 acres, and we are in search of areas to plant for doing all the benefits that come along with planting along riparian buffers. Do you need me to present what?
That'd be helpful, I think, for everybody to maybe talk about what a riparian buffer is.
Do you want to do it? Okay, a riparian buffer is just by the definition that we proposed in our grant, or the DCNR actually's definition, is within land within 300 feet of a waterway, so a pond, a lake, streams, creeks, all that. And there are many benefits to planting in riparian buffers. You get obviously the benefits of any tree, the carbon sequestration, the air filtration and all that, but more specifically, riparian buffers are beneficial because planting in riparian buffers, because they will mitigate flooding and cool the pond and stream, and do and it's really beneficial for wildlife in the area. So there are a lot of benefits to this. It would be free of charge for you guys. And anything else? I think Andrew presented at the PrAC and they approved.
You?
We had a whole proposal. I don't know if you saw
We
it.
have the whole
In
proposal.
Their agenda packet, along with the map, where the proposed plantings are shown, along with the recommendation from the Park and Rec Advisory Committee.
Are there any, for maintenance after it's all installed, what sort of maintenance can the township expect
That's a
to
great
undertake?
question. So we are responsible, Community County Project are responsible for 3 years of maintenance, after which point we think the maintenance will be minimal. There's a landowner agreement that needs to be signed by somebody who has responsibility to sign it. And there's 3 issues that we want to make sure that you're aware of. I don't know if you want me to present those now.
Sure.
Okay, so some key issues that we've had issues with in the past, and I just want to make sure you're aware of it, is that the DCNR grant mandates that you sign the contract saying that you can't cut down these trees for 25 years unless they're dead, damaged, or diseased. So the point would be to keep them there, to create eventually a woodlands, to make it more wooded and attractive for wildlife, and not just randomly cut it down. If you were to sell the property, which I don't think you would probably, so that would be a moot issue, but it still says that you would have to transfer it to the next owner. The agreement would have to be transferred to the next owner. If you neglect it after that time period, you would be responsible officially to pay the granting agency back a prorated amount. Now, bottom line is they're not going to come out after 24 years and look, and the total cost is only $3,500. So the likelihood that anybody's going to see, first of all, you're not going to neglect it because we've talked to Jim, and I'm sure that you'll take care of it, but it has to be in the signed agreement.
Could you tell us how you came to choose Mermaid over any other site, perhaps in the township? How you came to choose Mermaid Park?
Oh, well, we actually looked at that other park. What was that other park? Yes. But I think Jim Murphy or one of them, maybe, I remember I think somebody decided that Mermaid Park, I think there was some EAC and Friends of Mermaid Park involved. Maybe it was Jim, I'm not sure. Dan Mercer.
They're the Friends of Gresham Trail, I think, have done some work, or they're considering sending the trail near or through.
Right.
So they originally connected us, I think, and that's how we got to Mermaid. But we've also looked at Pulganity Park and would be happy to consider
Yeah.
additional parks within 300 feet of a stream or waterway.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They're all native trees. We're Yeah, we're all one native. 100%.
Well, I would, unless there's any other questions, I just am so grateful for the opportunity to receive this and grateful for your efforts across the county and specifically for choosing us. That was really just my segue was to just thank you for choosing us and giving us the opportunity to receive these trees. I think we've collectively as a board have generally tried to invest in more woodlands in general. And I would make the pitch that when Harston Woods comes online, then maybe we can talk about other places across town for the next round and the next opportunity.
We
So
would love that. That would be
that's my
great.
conclusion. Any,
That's a good question.
That was a birthday present from me to him.
so next step for Mike.
Yeah. I
So
think it's
kind of
some-
two things, if I might. So we have this NS4 obligation, like our permitting with the state. And we're working with a stormwater consultant with the Center for Watershed Management. And they had asked if, before we plant anything, we can run your plan past DEP, make sure they're in line, maybe remove some things around. We let naturally get credits.
Absolutely, yeah.
Forward with our hearing stuff. So
Absolutely.
that's a win-win for us that way.
So would you like to take the proposal and just give it to them?
So
That's
we have the
fine.
map, I already shared it with the
Yeah.
Center for Watershed Protection, they're gonna run it past DEP, just don't know how quickly DEP gets back to us. I
Oh.
think your schedule is plant in fall.
Yeah, but we
think-
kind of would love a signature soon so we can order the
100%.
trees.
Yeah, I think we could move forward with the contract, even if Andy hasn't had a chance to, review it yet. We can get authorization from the board this month, and then we can
Great.
sign it after Andy has had a chance to
Great.
look at it. Make sure we're comfortable with it, and then get it to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Was there another point?
No, that was the two.
That was
And
two?
that's more of the contract.
Oh, good.
Question, just, I would be the proposal that we use for 4 years, but just a very flexible piece, but is that included, I'm just thinking about our public works, and how we, we're not taking care of our current trees. In terms of watering and, finding a protected area around the, things like that, that's all we checked on a daily basis by your staff.
Our staff, you're looking at us.
Staff.
For the first 3 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
for the first 3 years, we will maintain all of that and, yeah, that includes, making sure the trees are getting established. Usually after the first year, because these plants are generally smaller, we won't have to do much watering, so become established pretty quickly. And, after that, it's just making sure that the fencing, the deer protection stays on and, maybe mulching and weeding and taking care of any invasive species that may start to come up.
And Andrew is officially an arborist, so he does the light pruning on young trees before they're fully, mature, but he doesn't do it like when they're really big. The other point I wanted to make about the landowner agreement, I provided 2 drafts of the landowner agreement. One says that we're gonna mow, the other says that you are gonna mow. So we have in the past suggested that landowners let the area go wild, grow, but we've recently learned, so it hasn't really been an issue, but we've recently learned from the Stroud Center, the Stroud Water Research Center, that it is far better to mow amongst the trees for 3 years. It prevents competition for the weeds with the new trees, and it also prevents voles, which like the high grass in the winter. And we've actually had some recent experience at other plantings where we did let the grass grow as we thought was the better way to do it. And lo and behold, we got a bunch of voles killing our trees. So they do need to be mowed, but the question is whether we do it or the township does it.
And this doesn't have to be a regular,
Yeah,
like
oh,
weekly
yeah.
mowing. It can be 2 times a year or 2 or 3 times a year, just with one at the end of the season to make sure that there's no tall grass around the trees during the winter when the voles would be actively looking for bark to chew on.
Right, so it's only,
We subcontract that out to people, right? We were leaning towards allowing you folks to do it.
Oh, thank
Our
you.
folks, well, our guys may not recognize what's supposed to be there versus what's supposed to be.
everything is fenced,
Yeah.
even then,
You'd be surprised.
oh,
We have.
we have seen that.
that could be educational. Like, that could-
We'd be happy to educate. I mean, we are purchasing equipment to do it, so we can do it.
It's twice a year, right?
It's actually twice during the growing season and then once right before winter, because it's, as Andrew said, when the grass is high before winter, that's when they are chewing on the root systems.
Well, we could work those details out.
But you
Yeah,
have
we'll
to
work
sign
the
the right
details out.
contract. You got it.
We'll sign it and work those details out. And I think, to Beth's point, I think we can be sure it gets written explicitly so that we all learn for the future as well. So,
Absolutely.
thank you. And we will make the voles mow. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Around with the Shade Tree Commission, so that would be a nice connection to make outside of this meeting, but just to make sure that maybe we can talk about that after this, but great connection to our Shade Tree goals. So
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for coming out here.
Thank you all.
Appreciate you. And thanks for the work all across the county. As promised, my next topic that we're going to put on is lacrosse, followed again by skate park, then natural lands, and then the comment on mermaid. Lacrosse is on tab O.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Jason Purcell. I'm the president of Spartan Lacrosse Club here in the township. I have been involved with Spartan Lacrosse Club for about 10 years now, coaching there, and I've been leading the club as club president for the last 7 years. With me tonight is our treasurer, Dean Schoendorfer, as well. I live in Erdenheim, so I live right behind the school at Enfield there. And so really just the purpose of tonight is to simply just going off of the various meetings we've had with the Parks and Rec Committee, and the approvals that we got from them. We wanted to make sure that we're submitting to the board everything that was talked about and make sure that we have a chance to answer any questions, whatever's needed. Did you guys get the PDF that we sent? Oh, it's up there. Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, so part of the agenda was to, yeah, I'll take that. About five, I'll probably make it brief though, and make sure we're hitting the points that you need. So part of what we were asked to tonight by Jim and Rob was to come up with a couple different options, right? So at a high level, what we're looking to accomplish here is to build a equipment shed and also a bounce back wall. So back in 2021, we had aspirations to put in an equipment shed, and in 2021 we were told, hey, good idea, we like it, but we would prefer it to be, this, that, and it ultimately required a lot more capital funding. So we went out and just did grassroots funding for the past 5 years. And we were able to come up with a budget capital $75,000. And that's ultimately what it's going to take for us to put this together. So just like I said, a lot of grassroots commitment. Yeah, lots of fundraisers over the years, but it's been an adventure, but we're here 5 years later. And again, funding is secured. So the purpose of tonight, in addition to just explaining kind of what the project is and looking to get approval, is to talk about a couple of different options in terms of the locations of where this is going to be. So we operate mainly out of Cisco Park. So I'll just keep talking until that gets back online. We operate mainly out of Cisco Park on Montgomery Avenue. So the question was asked of, where these bounce back wall and where the shed would go. So I've talked about this here. Here was our May committee feedback. I've already mentioned most of this. Okay, so this will be option one. As you can see, and this is not in any specific order, right, in terms of our preference, right? We want to work with you guys to figure out what's maybe the best location here and the best resolution. So one would be a shed on the corner there, as you can see, of that little walking path and Montgomery Avenue. I have a picture of this as well. And then the wall. So
There's a red thing in the pointer. Yep.
oh, sure. Yeah, sorry. It's the center button, right? Is it the center button? Yeah. Okay. Okay, perfect. So there's our shed there. Wall down here. And I'll show you pictures and renderings of the wall and shed in a second. But this would be option one. Um, in terms of option two, here we have the shed here, and then just adjacent to it would be our bounce back wall. And for folks that are wondering too, the equipment shed is self-explanatory, but the bounce back wall for lacrosse purposes, in order to get really skilled at lacrosse, having a bounce back wall to be able to throw against is super useful for kids and even high school players to be able to advance their skills and be able to get better by catching and throwing against the rebounder wall. Very common. There's one actually right up here. LaSalle has one. It's for pretty common athletics for lacrosse fields. Okay, so so next up there, we were asked about this location as well. So just throwing this out there. There is was talks about perhaps moving it down to the corner there and doing some walkthroughs. It didn't seem like that was the most viable option based on some sort of softness of the ground. In addition, there's like the shed being super far away from. We operate in the lower field as well, so being able to have to carry 100-pound goals back and forth was a bit challenging as well.
Two people.
Sometimes three, yeah, and if they're middle schoolers, sometimes five. So with the equipment shed, we noticed the pavilion obviously was built a few years back, which is lovely. We are looking to just match the sort of motif, if you will, of that equipment shed. So it'll be a pole barn, very similar to what you see on the right there. Regardless of where it goes, it'll look just like that. And again, we look to match that green roof and kind of earth tone siding. Let's see. So this would be the proposed location number one for the shed. So this shows you, I'm sure you're all familiar with the area, but this is proposed location number one. You can see the specs on the shed in the bottom left there, 12 by 20. There will be, there will be a little bit of dirt that has to be built out from an excavation standpoint. That dirt will just get resurfaced along the area in order to basically keep the same water runoff that exists there today. No trees will be taken down. Nothing will be removed from the site. It'll simply just be in that location there, if chosen. And this would be kind of a rendering of the rebound wall. The height of it is 15 feet by 36. There was initial thoughts to go with like a masonry brick wall, but that was determined that would require a little too much maintenance, and after a few years, it may not look as sightly. This is really a poured like prefab concrete walls, purpose built for lacrosse rebound walls. They're heavy, they're big, they cost a lot of money, and so this would theoretically go on the on our proposal. This goes along, I guess it would be the, what's the name of that creek there? Paper Mill Run, thank you. Yeah, so you're all familiar with this site here. This again, no trees will be removed. This will be high up. That ground is solid. We can get this put in there. I do want to point out just for the avoidance of doubt, there's a border around the outside of that. That will not exist on the site. That looks like some kind of brick border. This is just going to simply just be, for now, just a wall with just the grass that exists there today. So
Behind that, balls go over it, are they inaccessible there?
no, I think we might be able to go in there and retrieve them for sure. I mean, they're like $3 or $4 a piece, so we don't really want to lose them, honestly. But a couple balls could go over for sure, but they should be.
How close to that is the film? Come on, was it that side?
Well, I'm sorry, the parking lot, theoretically, we could get a few balls.
That was where I was
So,
going.
but all the locations, you're gonna have straight lines. I mean, like, when you walk on, you get yourself pretty across. You do
Yeah.
straight up, south. So they do stray.
I can share my address. You can drop them off. But
Can you,
I get baseball.
can you use both sides of the wall?
in this one, no. There was thoughts to turn it perpendicular, so you could use both sides of the wall. We're certainly not opposed to that. I think the logic is we didn't want to impede too much onto, I know that softball is not played there anymore, really, but we just didn't want to impede too much on the existing like field as it exists. And furthermore, I mean, I think we're gonna be far enough down. but ultimately, like, if there was ever a day where we could expand and enlarge that field, to basically take over a little bit of that softball field that's not being used, we wouldn't want to have this giant structure again, perpendicular to potentially.
Also.
Yeah.
Any stray balls in the, perpendicular, the stray balls, we could put the playground, which I don't think. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, moving on, we have, I believe it's going to go to the next site. Let me see here. Oh, so this is just the LaSalle rendering, so you can take a look. And again, like, well, I don't want to move because I'm talking to the mic, but this has a turf field. It's got a border. We won't have that. We don't have the funding for that. So it's just gonna be grass field. Okay, so and by the way, before I even go into the maintenance plan, are there any questions or anything else? Any other thoughts? I'm kind of closing off on the maintenance plan slide.
Wrap
We're
up
good?
on maintenance and we can just get into it.
Cool. So we will own this from a maintenance standpoint, as long as it's there and as long as the club's in existence. We've been in existence for 27 years now. But we will own the maintenance for this, plain and simple. We'll produce a report to the Parks and Rec Committee, to Jim, every single fall, every August. And we'll include all the, preventative and reactive maintenance. Frankly, we don't foresee that much, but there might be some. So certainly in the first 5-10 years, I don't see much at all. I think if you kind of take a look at the LaSalle like prefab concrete wall, you can kind of see that it is kind of earth toned by nature. And so there's just not a whole lot of maintenance going into it, but yeah. I believe this is it.
So I had a couple notes. I wanted to note for everyone that in discussions with skate park and why I kind of abutted you, at some point there was discussion of that softball field not being used and could there be utility there? Obviously, it's a central park. A lot of people would have access to it. It's right off the road. And then, of course, we're butting into the conversation with lacrosse and hey, and I don't know if this ever came up, but just in case it didn't, but hey, maybe lacrosse needs that space. Regardless, maybe that softball field could expire potentially, whatsoever, howsoever everyone feels. I just want to bring it up that these have been sort of pieces and parts that we've discussed over time. And so you brought it up earlier and alluded to that field. And,
Yep.
and when I saw it, I thought, gosh, I wouldn't want, if you're going to do it, I actually would move it further inward toward paper mill, toward the fields, also to give a little buffer to the playground area and people coming in and out of that pathway where inevitably people would be hovering in mass, young people, especially around that shed, to give a little buffer. Right. Might be better to be further away from the ground. So my instinct is just to be further away, whether it's a lateral move in vision 1, toward paper mill, or to go all the way to version 2. That's just something further away than where option 1 was located, was my instinct.
Gotcha.
Which could require that we, sunset the softball field that is not used presently.
Jason, how do you feel about option 2?
Dean and I were just talking about this. I'm really sort of deferential to either option. It really doesn't quite like the coach in me says that option 2 is great because the goals are going to be closer to the lower field. And when we're carrying them across, it's going to be a little easier.
Okay.
So I'm great with option 2, but honestly, either one doesn't matter.
Can I just say one thing you noticed on walk on when you walk the walking path, as you kind of curve around and you cross over the bridge, you'd be looking right at the shed in option 1. But option 2 kind of tucks it away to the right. And so in a way, it kind of makes it less intrusive.
I feel like we talked about option 2, and wasn't there a concern about water or something at some point? Right in the floodplain. So,
But it's that field is quite elevated.
so what would we, I don't know, what concerns do you see knowing the park for a long time?
Well, I don't think that we've ever had water up that high on that
That
side.
field is,
But
yeah, it's high.
But I understand, we're members of the Federal Emergency Management Agency floodplain regulation program, so we can't approve something to be built in a floodplain without going through the variance procedures that we have set up if we can demonstrate that it's outside of the flood elevation, I think the path gets easier, but someone's gonna have to do an elevation certificate to determine that, it's not.
Yep.
I don't think the wall's a problem, because the wall's not gonna restrict the flow of water,
Right.
but a shed has the potential to get carried away.
This was a long time ago, about 5 years ago, they looked at a topographical map at the time and thought, doesn't look like it's a problem. Like it quickly tapers off because it is so high, but yeah.
Well, that's something to consider. I mean, there would be a
That's the
cost.
only
Yeah,
concern I would
there would be a
have.
cost element to
Mhm.
that. I mean, I instinctively would say option 2 makes sense, but I presume option 1 was offered because that might be something you prefer, to Jim's point.
No, we were kind of we were asked to offer two different options.
Have you contemplated, as other fields do, end up getting snack bars and things like that in this endeavor?
So the shed itself will have like a little window. If we wanted to like have snacks or something like that to be served through the window, I guess we could, but it's most critical that we get a place to put the goals, especially with the with the rec center. We've been fortunate enough to be able to use the rec center to put our goals in the winter for the past 5-6 years, and we know that's there's a time element there where we know we're not going to have that anymore. So.
And one thing I like about it too is just that it keeps a building face away from Montgomery, so that run where it feels open for fun.
I agree with 2. What is your timeline that you have in mind?
Yeah, so I mean, we realize that there's other things that have to get put through the paces. But I mean, ideally, we would love to be able to move on this in the fall.
Right.
Yeah, so as fast as we can, but realize that it's going to take some time and have to go through some process as
At
well.
that point, Mike, how quickly do you think we can get some kind of guidance from you to?
If you're okay with him, going out with the surveys and taking some shots and elevations, I think we can get that in pretty quickly.
And just for what it's worth, just thinking about your concern about the width of that shed maybe causing some issues with the runoff. I wouldn't have a problem flip-flopping the shed and the wall, because theoretically you might have a little bit more elevation to the whatever, I guess, east side of the field there.
Then the straight off.
No, he's just.
No, I just mean just
I'm pleased to hear that you've raised so much money and been able to be able to invest in our fields. That's fabulous and wonderful and great for the kids and great for, again, a good reflection of our community. We know we rely so much on organizations like yourselves to do this. So I don't suspect there's any challenge, but I'm going to put it out for commissioners and I guess any member of the public, if there's any issue with the concept of having this here at Cisco at all. No issue. So it sounds like we just need to figure out the details, and it seems like we're leaning towards option 2, mostly to keep sight lines and folks away from that major entry point. And I would just, make the pitch that if there are some things like those snack bars or whatever considerations that these other parks have that the Little League folks tend to have, this would be a great time to make those considerations. And I think it's great that you've made this your home, and not that I want any more agreements, but one day you may be big enough to have the agreements that other clubs to have. So appreciate you.
yeah. Thank you, Susan. Appreciate it.
So sounds like next step is to firm that up and come back to us. We're going to do some research into the elevation side.
Yeah, Jason mentioned maintenance plan for it. It might not be a bad idea to have.
A land use agreement.
Well, maybe it's not a full land use agreement, but maybe just like a maintenance
Sure.
agreement or of some sort, just to memorialize, like it's their shed, their responsibility.
Not all that different than we did for the building at Little.
Yeah, that was a little bit more involved. This doesn't have to be all that involved. but
Right.
Yep,
Something that just kind of,
we're fine with that. If that's
somebody can look back to
sure.
6,
Wonderful.
8 years ago from now, whatever.
That's fine.
So it sounds like,
They're not using it.
And obviously girls lacrosse as well, even though Spartan boys lacrosse is a boys lacrosse organization. It's same principle for girls lacrosse as well.
Yeah, and I guess I would just add, I wish you could do both sides just so that more people could be using it at once, unless it doesn't make
Yeah.
sense for you, but.
Yeah, it's 6 panels, so you can just.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much again. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Great, thanks. Next up, somewhat similar is skate park, and that is tab N. Oh, yes. Oh, I should say, we also have um, a management, report, from someone at 8 p.m. I'm just going to ask, would you be willing to wait just one moment for the skate park conversation and then we'll do yours. All right. Thank you so much. All right. We're going to quickly do skate. Um, that is tab N right before tab O. All right. So as we know, we've long discussed skate as a topic in the township, and last that has occurred for members of the public is that the ad hoc committee of commissioners have gotten together on several occasions and surveyed the township and surveyed sites for skate and has come up with their best and favorite site of being McKelvey Park. Rob, do you want to take it from here and cue this up?
Yeah, it would be a.
Rob is our Parks and Rec
Right, it
lead.
would be a smaller skate park than originally envisioned, but still within the square footage of, the enjoyable, challenging skate park as seen in other communities. There's other ones that size, so there's enough room there. It's near, a town center. People can kind of use it in conjunction with amenities in the town center, which is something we've been trying to encourage in the township. And, it just has a nice feel to it. Yeah.
And you heard me reference earlier that, we talked about places like Cisco, perhaps that under, non-utilized field could be converted. I think in conversations I said, hey, how about the green space right by the library? Because kids could come across the street from school and do something by the library. And all of those, and of course, we've talked about Walnut and Laurel Beach and that the challenges at Laurel Beach, Walnut. And that might seem amenable, and it always did to me, but one point is accessibility and visibility. And if it were at Walnut, it would be tucked away in a corner. And so all this led to the comments that Rob made that this could be a viable option. Now, we don't need to necessarily take action, but I think what I would suggest to give guidance to the individuals who really spent a lot of time on this topic over the years is that we square in on McKelvey. I would suggest that we ensure that we reach out to the neighbors adjacent to McKelvey, which I believe our staff is going to do to get the feedback necessary and confirm that there's no other issues that we haven't thought of at that site, so that we could say to a group of individuals, some of whom are here, but theoretically any group of individuals, this spot could be a skate park, and you would have the green light to go out and fundraise for that location for theoretically X number of years, could be 10 years, right? Could take that long. And so that you at least have something to work with, you being the donors and fundraisers and volunteers who've been working on the topic. So that's the next step there. Does anyone here have any questions? And then we do have a couple folks from who've spoken on skate park before from the Skate Park Association. Do you have any thoughts, questions, or concerns?
My name is Carmel Archdeacon. My question would be, how long would this process take? Like, if you're going back to the neighbors in Orland to take a survey, and then what's the next step as far as how can we start the green light to fundraise? Because that was kind of our static point. We couldn't really do anything until we had an address, a final decision. So that would be my question. Like, is it going to be another few years before this gets
No,
approved?
I think Jim Murphy, our Director of Parks and Rec, is already
He's got a
tasked
letter,
with doing
drafted,
this.
And he's actually gonna include a short survey of 5 to 8 questions. To try and get structured feedback instead of looking all over the place. Probably defer to the board. You want to set a date certain for receiving those responses back. so that you can, in fairness to the skate park association, get back to that one direction. So think about what that date is and let me know, and we'll write that into the letter.
I mean,
And
I
is
would
it
think,
just to the neighbors around 500? Okay.
That's what we use for zoning, subdivision, land development, that's just.
Okay.
I would think 1 month from, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, can I ask a question about that? Does that include the commercial spaces too? Okay, thank you.
I would think 1 month from the time that you've issued it to get the feedback seems satisfactory, which puts us theoretically, mid-July. And then then if that's beyond our July meeting, then by our August meeting, we could have that green light. Does that sound right to you all?
Yeah.
All right, great.
Okay.
Well, that's what I have for you.
I'll use for the fairness of vacation season and everything else, why don't we use July 30th then? That way it's back in plenty of time for your August meeting.
Fabulous. I agree with that. So, all right, great.
So that is our intention, Susie, to be able to, whether it's a vote or consensus, to say that we are interested in that space. Definitely, what other hurdles are there? And it's our property. It's our property.
I think the intention, and for the benefit of being explicit to this association, hey, at this point, anytime within, and I would put some year number on it, right? 5 to could be 10 years, I don't know, 5 years. If you can do this within X number of years,
Objectively.
I'm just saying that, you have some certainty around what you can fundraise on, and some timeframes.
It generates some kind of interest in finding some DIY type structures, maybe near, if we get, cooperation.
Like a small sample area, just.
Yeah. Coming,
And I just feel like
My parks are pretty popular.
And I say that because I think it's going to take some time to design, in the past, there have been designs that we've seen that they've invested in. So it's going to take some time for them to go get the site dimensions and design and what have you. So I just want to provide some parameters so that the parameters are clear. The challenging part in the past was that the parameters were not clear. It was just, we dream of this and we wish for it. And I think we can get to it sooner if we had set these parameters. So
That is an interesting idea. And if we're at the point where we've committed, let's say the next 60 days, and the group is fundraising, is there an interim step where we can start using space? Interesting way. Now you have to have it be safe and, all that kind of stuff. It is interesting.
Maybe the things that are put out and taken away.
and I think that could be a natural corollary to fundraising as well. Right.
The temporary ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we probably take some steps to. I walk away. But, I don't think the so easy. And then I think it'll be important to note too, is to get this letter out. This is to let everybody know about what we're considering. It's not like we're putting it up for referendum, it's to solicit feedback, that people can raise with legitimate objections as to why it shouldn't be there, things that we haven't considered. That we can hear those things out, so that we're gonna just steamroll ahead with it. But I think we've done a lot of digging on different locations, evaluating the pros and cons of all these different places. And becoming part, you already have basketball courts that are attracting kids, we're excited about the fact that they're attracting kids there. And this would just be, another space, complement that area. And it's all, right there by a pizza parlor and convenience stores. And so, it does seem to check a lot of great boxes, to add another great,
No longer a vape shop.
But just like another great addition to the community. I think would be great for kids. We've had a lot of conversations about the different facilities that are available in this township, including, the cross, it's fantastic. But it's all like a lot of team sports. And skating is the sort of thing where one child with a skateboard or, if it's inline skates or whatever it may be, can go and have fun at this park. And it's important to take into account you know, all kinds of athletes and kids who take part in activities, so.
And
Yeah,
adults
sure.
too,
What's that?
adults.
And adults might feel like going out there and breaking his neck, you know, the whole time, so. But, yeah, I think it can be a great addition too.
Well, here, sure.
Hopefully about that. Sorry, my name is David Nudek, everybody. I was there earlier at that space. I'm just going to take this up so I don't have to lean over like that. And it's a fairly sizable grassy area. I'm assuming that's the space that we're talking about. Is that end of July, would we have an idea of the exact square footage of what would be allotted to the skate park in that space? Just because that makes a difference on, when we start a redesign and, enlist somebody to do that, we would need to know that
It'll be our
information.
August meeting.
I think we talked about 5,000 to 6,000 square feet.
I don't know about 6,000. I did some like rough estimate, a little bit small over that. But my gut reaction to that is there's some trees around the perimeter. I wouldn't want to disturb any of the. So to me, everything inside of that, there is a buffer from the trees.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
And
It's like the good enough space, right?
I think it's a fantastic space. And for all the reasons that you already listed, all of the retail places that are around there, the pizza,
Very similar
Yeah, yeah.
size to the one that's in Ambler. It's
yes.
part of the park.
Yeah, I would say it's even probably a little bit bigger.
I think to give us an idea, there used to be a third basketball court in that area that became a problem, so.
In that grassy area?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not realize
So
that.
basically, like, imagine a basketball court probably with another 3 feet around the whole area. And that would be one.
Gotcha. No, I'm a fan of the space. I think it's a good spot.
But I think if you're asking like officially, it'll be our August meeting. So not just, we'll get the feedback and we'll want to take to Brendan's point, take into account any feedback that we get in the August meeting. So
Okay,
that'll be our
great,
next stop.
great. And I want to thank you for your consideration and for your support. I appreciate it.
And David, can I get your last name spelled?
Newdeck, Newdeck.
Okay. thanks.
All right. Thank you so much.
What's that? I get that a lot.
Appropriate
I get that a lot. Thank you. No, but I have tried to get free drinks there. Didn't work.
Thank you so much. So we do have a presentation idea that was billed for 8 p.m. I'd like to get to that. And before we do that, is there someone who has a time issue that needs to address a matter?
Game 3 starts at 8:30.
Well, besides that time issue, and needs to address matter, I'll just a heads up that someone was here and came up and mentioned, wanting more crosswalks at Mermaid. And I just want to point that out because it just seemed like perhaps a time issue. So I just wanted to be sure that got mentioned. Not more sidewalks, just a crossing, a better safety crosswalk. Enhance signage, enhance crosswalk safety, and so forth. If there's anyone else who has something that's a time, that they're on a time crunch, please let me know now. If not, we're going to go right into our deer management presentation by our new employee.
Yes. You can lift that up if you want.
Okay, yeah, I'll try. All right, that's good.
Recent college graduate and new employee, everyone.
Yes.
Hello, welcome.
Hello, I'm Michael Matthews. I just graduated from Westchester University with a degree in public health and environmental. Yep. With a degree in public health and environmental health, and I'm currently an employee of the Public Works across the street. And during the spring 2026, I completed my capstone internship with Springfield Township and asked if there were any health issues, environmental health issues Springfield was facing, and was told that deer overpopulation was a very pressing issue in our township. So I just researched the causes and effects and what suburban municipalities like Springfield have done to help solve deer overpopulation in the past. So let's get right into it. So how deer overpopulation affect oh no, it's working. So first of all, deer are a very important part of our ecosystem, And basically over the past 100 years, due to this development of properties and the extinction of deer's natural predators, they have become overpopulated in Pennsylvania. And it's caused a lot of problems, ecological damage, property damage to plants and everything. As you can see in the picture here, this was taken at my good friend's house on Edan Road. The bottom of the tree has been eaten by deer, and that's very bad for the health of the tree. As everyone, I'm sure, sees, vehicle collisions are a problem of deer overpopulation. They're left on the side of the road, and that's a terrible thing, as well as tick-borne disease concerns and wildlife health issues. Yeah. So some of the key findings I found, first, when too many deer feed in the same area, native plants aren't able to recover. Young trees struggle to grow and invasive species often take over. This reduces biodiversity and weakens forest health. As well as property impacts, since the forest area of Springfield is slowly diminishing over time with development. The deer are forced to live in people's backyards and travel often, so that leads to a lot of damage to gardens. Deer are eating people's plants and trees that they grow, as well as lots of tree and sapling destruction. So a few objectives of my internship in the spring semester. I wanted to learn more about how the township administration worked and decisions were made, as well as review environmental and public safety impacts of deer overpopulation. Especially, I wanted to evaluate the management options, see what was possible and practical for Springfield Township to do to solve deer overpopulation. I wanted to hear directly from the residents, so I created a survey. It was open for a couple weeks in March. I'll talk more about that later. And also, I realized that I wasn't going to solve the deer population problem in a couple months, but I I at least wanted to create some resident educational material to answer some frequently asked questions about deer when they encounter them, and also to develop a good recommendation for the township on what they can do to solve this issue. So first, a little bit about the deer survey. It was open for a couple weeks in March. It saw 872 responses, which I was very happy about. And some key factors include 57% of respondents say they saw deer daily, and 64% believe the population is too high, and 7.6% have experienced a deer vehicle collision. And on the little graphic right there, it's a little small, but it says 71.1% of respondents think that deer sightings have increased in the past 5 years, which leads me to think that if nothing is done about this issue, it will continue to get worse and just cause more problems for the township. Now, I left a section of the survey for to be open-ended, where residents could give their personal feedback and stories about deer, and a lot of it was gardening and landscaping damage. Residents would spend a lot of their time and money to create beautiful gardens and work on the yards, and unfortunately, they would all be eaten up by the deer, which is unfortunate, and a lot of them have given up, which is sad. And another big thing was people were scared of Lyme disease, and deer are known to be major carriers of ticks, so they could spread to pets and then spread to humans. There were a few stories in the residents, a few responses residents had where they talked about Lyme disease affecting themselves. And my sister actually had Lyme disease about a year ago, so it is very real. Another major thing was traffic safety. People driving where they are driving, all of a sudden the deer runs out in front of their car. They're scared for the life of the deer. They don't want it to die in a tragic way like that, and they're also scared for the protection of their car because they can cause some serious damage. Another thing was large deer herds in neighborhoods. People would go outside and see like 6 deer staring at them in their backyard. And they didn't appear to be afraid of humans just because they're so used to being around people's properties, and they're concerned for the safety of like their small pets and children. Uh, okay. No, I got it. So more about some public safety concerns. According to the Springfield Township Police Department, there were 29 deer vehicle collisions since 2023, and that number is most likely underreported according to my research, since a lot of people, if they hit a deer with their car, they don't want to report it and have to deal with the insurance and any damage they got with their car. So obviously that's terrible. And that's one of the main reasons why people want to do something about the deer. The tick-borne illness, as I talked about earlier, the deer help sustain the tick populations, and Lyme disease is very prevalent and can happen. Along with the health of the deer is a big thing. So as the population increases and the natural food supplies in the forest depletes, they begin to eat resident plants in their gardens, and even plants that are known to be unattractive to deer, they end up eating. But eventually, her overall herd health of the deer can decline when populations exceed available resources. And what's trending right now in Pennsylvania and other states is chronic wasting disease. And that's basically a fatal disease that just causes the deer's brain to rot, and it's called like zombie deer disease. That's like a nickname for it. And it makes them like almost like not scared of humans. And it's currently not like proven that it can't spread to humans, but it can spread to other animals, which can spread to people's pets and stuff. So that's terrible. So a few options that were popular to solve deer management. The first was fertility control. It is where an immunocontraceptive vaccine is administered to deer in an area. The cost of this is very high, and it is not very effective because it's honestly very hard to just round up the deer and administer it. And also, a lot of them aren't approved by the FDA, and like could cause more harm to the deer than good. Relocation is kind of the same thing. The cost is very high, and having to round them all up is very difficult. And also, and also trying to find some place that would take them is
Why don't
hard.
you just go to all the deer crossing signs?
Yeah. Yeah. And then the third option, this goes along with the fourth option. The third option is a professional culling, which is done by the U.S. Department of Agriculture after a deer management program, which we'll get to next, is proven unsuccessful after 2 years. That's when the USDA sends out sharpshooters to parks, and everything is done extremely safety with, and there's a ton of safety measures. I won't go into all of them, but the problem with this is that the cost is very high, and they can only do it about once or twice a season. I saw a number that it's about $750 per carcass if you hire the professionals. So that wouldn't be the first option for Springfield, but for suburban municipalities, for Springfield, creating a deer management program is typically the best way to consistently make an effort to lower the population. And it's very low cost and has a high rate of long-term success, and we'll see why. Next slide. So the deer management program, it's basically made up of volunteers from the township who are all trained hunters and experts. I actually was talking to one of the police officers from Abington, who is the head of their deer management program. They just revived their program in 2026, and they had 2 controlled hunts in January that were very successful. I believe they got about 20 does out of that, which are female deer, if you don't know. And he explained to me that since they got about 20, and the mating season, they have about 2 to 3 does each. So really, that would be like almost like 50 does that are reduced less in the township. And yeah, some of the factors of this are there's plenty of safety regulations and rules, but it's all archery and crossbows. There are very strict safety requirements like tree stands and like proper zones. All participants are trained. There's lots of public notification procedures, where like it would take place in like a Saturday morning in a park in the winter. So there would be signs up for weeks before that say like when the park is closed, and also there would be a police presence around the park to make sure nobody goes in and it could be unsafe. And to make this as ethical as possible, uh, the the officer from Abington told me they teamed up with an organization called Hunters Supporting the Harvest. So they donated all of the meat they hunted to local food banks. And actually, in the annual evaluation metrics, they listed how many pounds of meat they were able to donate, as well as all the other statistics about the hunt, like total people hunting, total deer hunted, yeah, total man hours hunted, where they did it, how much they got from where. And so, yeah, the report was very thorough and it was good. You could find it on the Abington Township website under their deer section. And the goal of this would be to like nobody just wants to kill the deer to kill the deer. And obviously there's some ethical issues around this, but it would be to reduce human deer conflicts, improve vegetation health, protect public safety, and maintain a sustainable deer population. So at the end of my internship, I really wanted to do something like directly that could answer a lot of the pressing questions about the deer. So these are both posted on the township Facebook page. The flyer on the left shows some driving safely during deer season tips. It has a lot of like when deer are most active, understanding deer behavior, and like what to do if you collide with a deer, or if you found a roadkill deer, who to call, because it's important that that's taken care of properly. And sometimes it's the township, sometimes it's the state. So all of that information's on the flyer on the Facebook page. I know it's pretty small right now. And the second flyer was how to live with deer in your yard, because obviously the deer are everywhere. I'm sure we all see them in our backyards. And what to do if you find a baby deer in your yard, and a few tips on how to protect the plants and how to protect the yard from ticks as best as you can. So a few final thoughts. Deer overpopulation is a significant community concern. Residents report environmental and safety impacts of the needing of taking care of the overpopulation of deer. Effective management requires a balanced, long-term approach to deer management, and this internship provided valuable experience in public administration and community problem solving for a pressing issue in our township. And I'd like to thank Mike and Craig for the ability to complete this internship, as well as the Board of Commissioners. I really appreciate it and had a good experience. I'd be happy to answer anyone's questions if anyone has any.
Well, thank you, Michael, for your contributions. Just by doing this presentation, I feel like we deserve a round of applause. Thank you for your work and for your presentation. I will say, deer is probably the thing I get emailed about the most, to be honest with you. So it is seemingly small bones, but it is something that we wish we had a better answer to. Even the deer management program, I think we've discussed a number of times that implementing one is not as straightforward as we hope because of the geographic limitations that we would have to allow for safe culling. Although, and to be fair, we've also never openly discussed how we all feel about doing so in general. So both of those things open matters. Anyone
Well, I
else?
have a question to that point. And this is great, and thank you for doing this. This is really great, you know. Information for the township and for us to try to decide what things we do about it. You have a chart where you show sort of the different solutions. One thing that, I want to say, one option for us would be not do anything.
Yeah.
What do you see as the upsides and downsides of that?
I mean, the downsides are just these problems could continue to happen and possibly get worse. But given the limitations Springfield has with park space that I'm aware of, it could just be a attitude change, I guess, by the residents that the deer are here, unfortunately, and we have to live with them, and that's okay. I could see that, but
Big announcement on the website, the attitude change.
If you have a question,
Yeah, we need
please
you to
come to the microphone for the benefit of the public, or
people at home watching, they can't.
or you could bring the microphone to that.
You can do it, bud.
Bud Cook, I live in Winmore. I've had Lyme disease. I have hit deer with my car. My question is, how did you define deer overpopulation? Is it just the survey that people think there are too many deer, or did you have some kind of metric? And that's a metric that would help you define success of whatever program is selected by the township over time.
Yeah. No, yeah, thank you for, I'm not sure of the exact numbers. I know they're listed in the report I made, but I know, it's like supposed to be like one deer per however many acres of forested area. And
64 to 128 forested acres.
yeah, so obviously, yeah, which is a lot. And so obviously Springfield tremendously exceeds that, as well as many other suburban municipalities near Springfield. So the best would just to do like a little bit at a time and try and get it lower. But obviously it'll be very difficult to get to that proper range, but it's just obvious to see with the amount of forested area we have in Springfield, and the amount of deer everyone sees around, that they are overpopulated. Yeah. Yes.
Hi, I'm Jana Caputo from Winmore. I'm a big proponent of doing something about the deer, but beside that, I know that people feed the deer. And I wonder, not everybody's on Facebook. And I mean, I don't feed the deer, but I know two people on my block who do, two people on the block behind me who do. I have throw up of like horse feed that sometimes the deer eat it because that's what's recommended. Then I looked up on the internet, that's what they recommend to feed deer is horse feed. It's not like chicken feed, it's actually horse feed. So I've had that throw up on my lawn. So I know someone somewhere is feeding it. So I'm wondering how we could just right now do something to really say this is not okay. I don't know if it's against the code of our township, but.
Correct me if I'm wrong, we do have a webpage with information on.
And it says don't feed the deer. Yeah. But that's on Facebook. The one on your site says don't feed the deer, but I don't know if people read that. Could we put out By the
Uh,
way, don't feed the deer. I mean,
The version of this presentation, but it's the wrap up of it, and I'm just using graphics.
that would be good. And just for right now, otherwise keep on the good one.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Hi, all. Ben Shimonik, live in Flower Town. Thanks, bud. Many of you already know me. So first, thanks for all the work. Amazing stuff. I'm just going to template by saying, because this has come up in some of our EAC meetings, I think I'm the only person that's horribly against it because I always feel bad for the deer, but pragmatism exists and clearly there's a problem. So I'm glad that we're doing something, and I would encourage the commissioners that we do something societally to address this. So one question and a comment. The question is, you mentioned that the professional calling could happen after 2 years of a failed deer management program. What is actually that failure look like? Who sets that? Do we define what failure is? Is that defined for us? Did your research indicate how we might even assess that? Because I don't know if we even have the expertise internally to even know what that looks like or doesn't look like. Because clearly by the numbers, we are way overpopulated. So what does success or failure in those 2 years need to look like?
No, that's a very good point. I'm not completely sure exactly what the metric would be, to be honest. It just had I just read like if you're still struggling with the overpopulation after a couple of years, then the USDA is you're permitted to hire them in order to help your community. Yeah, but I'm not sure any specifics, to be honest, but I could definitely look it up and figure it out. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. Thanks. Yeah, I agree. Maybe it's more of like a self-reported thing when you apply for it. And then I guess just a comment. So like I know for the deer management program, it was archery and like right away, right? Like arrows sounds better than bullets, but it's good to consider ethics. Deer run when they're hit by an arrow, right? They can run over 300 yards. They're hurting and bleeding that whole time. I'm just thinking of Fort Washington, that's going in people's yards. I know cost is a consideration, but there is an ethics with a bull in the middle of the night where the deer doesn't even know what happened. So just something to consider as we do this. Arrows sound better, but deer are going to run and bleed out. It's just how it happens.
Yeah, and I would say these type of considerations are things some of us may rest with, right? And some of us may be resting with, do we do anything at all? This is something that we just, as a society, live with, but obviously there's fair remarks regarding disease and issues that we encounter with the overpopulation. So I had the same question about what failure even looks like. It seems to me that regardless, you have to meet those parameters in order to have access to the other program. To your point, I don't know exactly what failure would look like, but if it means that we just need to establish a deer management program of any sort so that we can get access to those things, I think that's a good start. And it seems like there's a lot of flexibility to determine what that program looks like from what I've read here. And I would suggest that we at least explore it so we can propose that we explored it and, understand those metrics.
Yeah, I would add to that, and Mike, maybe you already know a little bit about this, but what are our neighboring townships doing? Right? So what we do is not in a vacuum. Our neighboring townships have made probably do what we do, but we call a couple here, they're just going to come up and put it talking about. So are we coordinating a coordinated effort?
Then one other tangential point I'd like to make is that even if we were to eliminate all the deer, there's other wildlife that carry mountains. White-footed mouse is the prime still. So unless we eliminate all white-footed mice, we're so hard. Yeah.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, this isn't the first time we've had a conversation on deer. Obviously, has led to this point, which we appreciate having an intern available to help us circle it. And in previous conversations, my understanding is no matter what program it is, we'll run into the physical limitations and parameters needed because of the density of housing that we have here. And I believe 3 parks were listed: Mermaid, Boganetti, and Sandy Run are the only places potentially that we would have a control over. And I would say arguably most of the folks who email me, they're not worried about the deer in Sandy Run. They're worried about the herd in front of Brendan's house.
Yeah,
and,
no,
and you can't necessarily pull in your neighbor's backyard.
No, if I could add, I was speaking to the police officer from Abington and I saw that like the 30% of the deer they harvested were from private property. And I asked him like, oh, did you like ask people to use their private property? And he said that, no, like residents or like a group of residents with like a big area in their backyard were able to volunteer their private property if they had deer problems and it fit all the safety parameters to have a controlled hunt by the association.
And the safety
on their
parameters
property.
are not just general safety, it's usually distance from another residence.
Yeah, it's like 150 yards, I think, from any roadway or path or anything. So it's pretty strict.
Well, thank you so much for your presentation. I think sounds like we may still need to chew on our decision about what type of program to pursue and then maybe try to craft one that we can digest and take it from there. So thank you.
No, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Great job. putting this together.
Great job.
Hi, my name's John Stapleton. I live in Windmore, and deer are very cute, but they're despicable. They're rats with big hooves. And to your point, the mice carry Lyme disease, but they don't eat the trees and the plants. I took a hunter safety course and then never went hunting. So I understand the parameters of distance. That being said, I volunteer my property as one of the places where somebody can put a deer stand up and shoot the 7, 8, 10, 12 deer that walk through every day. That's probably not possible. So, is it possible to have the township help residents put fences around their property? Or like in our case, there's a right of way down the creek between, what do you think? What is it? Widener Road and Patton, I think. Keep the deer in the right of way. Don't let them into the yards. Is there a way to deal with the situation? Because we're going to have a really hard time culling the deer, but we're all going to get rid of them. You know, let's face it, they're making the quality of life for all of us worse for all the reasons we just talked about. So let's control them. Let's put a fence up and make them go where we want them to go. Actually,
Well,
it
they
would
do
be
jump very far and high.
two fences 4 feet
but
apart.
thank you, John, for the suggestion. I
Thank
think
you,
we'll
yes.
have to think on it.
Ooh,
Thad, did you
second.
want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure the record is clear, you know, that personally, it's not in favor of no action, it's this sort of fun, doubles down. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've wrestled with it for some time, but perhaps now, having had a presentation, having had a report, we have taken the correct course to take the next step, which is to develop some sort of program so that we can actually at least qualify for the other program that you can get in 2 years, potentially. So, all right, great. I had 2 more items. Oh, sure, absolutely.
Hi, my name is Nancy Marcolina Ward. I'm from Chesney Downs. I've had 15 deer in my front yard with a 6-point buck. A baby deer was just born in my yard 2 weeks ago and lived there for quite some time, mother coming to nurse him. We have a 8-foot fence on one side of the yard. We have 4-foot fence in the back, another 4-foot fence, and I have put up deer netting around clematis, around azaleas, around roses, which they just love. I have spent so much money on trying to keep my yard deer free, and it doesn't work. They jump over the 4-foot fence like nothing. I put an extra 2 feet of deer netting on top, still jumping over the fence. I do not want to get Lyme's disease. There's a new tick out now, the star tick. If you get bitten by that, guess what? You can never eat red meat again in your life because you get anaphylactic shock and it doesn't go away. If that doesn't scare some people, I don't understand. We can't wait 2 years. What are we waiting for? The bucks rubbed their antlers on my magnolia tree. It doesn't have any bark left. I had to cut down the cypress trees in my backyard because 5 deer were bedding down under it every night. And I was like a loon going out there with my broom. So what we do, we cut down our cypress tree. I have lost so much stuff and put so much money. You can come see my yard. It's gorgeous. I have flowers all over. People comment all the time. But I'm so tired of fighting deer. I've been in this township for over 35 years. This has never been a problem. This has been a problem for probably the last 4 years. So it's out of control. Mount St. Joe Academy, ask them, we can cull on their property. LaSalle, ask them, can we cull on their property? It's big land. Carson Valley, it's empty. Can we cull on that property? There are large areas that we could use to get these deer. I mean, the fawn was as cute as could be. My granddaughter was involved, but not in our yards. We hit a deer on the turnpike. It didn't have anything to do with our township. That was the scariest thing I ever lived through. And I can't imagine having other people to have to hit a deer and see it either come through your windshield or flip over your car. These are really things that we need to look for and to do something about, because this involves everybody. I really hope we can start this sooner versus later. Like, what are we thinking about? I love animals. I do. And I know we took over their land, but they're now taking over ours. There has to be some kind of tit for tat here. And I think there are enough places that we could do something to bring the deer population down.
I appreciate your comments. I think very well heard, maybe experienced by members of the board ourselves. I think this is the next step, is to make a program so that we can execute it and have access to other resources to allow us to actually take action here, because there are just so many parameters and limitations when it comes to clearly the use of any type of force, particularly on animals. So I think this is the next step. We're in it. We're in the silo, and not to make a comparison to skate park. You heard us talk about the length of time and then the time frame.
Are we
that is sort
talking
of where we
months,
are.
years? I mean, this is just.
I don't know. Could be, I can't imagine years to come up with a plan based on the research that, Michael did. So we can at least get started this in these next couple
Well, I
months.
think as Jim said, we'll look to what our neighbors and other municipalities are doing, and Michael.
Cheltenham does it. Lafayette Hill does it. White Marsh does it.
Understood. And we borrow from what they've done
Okay.
and try and apply it to our municipality, but no two municipalities are the same. Even within our town, no two towns are the same within the township. There's much bigger properties in some areas of Windmore, where this is probably feasible. Chesney Downs, not gonna be feasible. Not gonna be feasible in your neighborhood.
Well, Carson Valley is where they live. Mount St. Joe Academy is where they live.
Well, they're in your backyard.
Yes, but they cross Bethlehem Pike every night and they come over from the mountain, right up that Chesney Lane, and they come on in. Well, I know that. I don't want you to call in my backyard. Right.
Next step is the plan, and that's what actually.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you.
And I would just add that we have not, this is not the first time we have looked into adjacent townships in the past. And just a warning that there are parameters, limitations that restricts many, that's my point about the density to Mike's point, that we couldn't do it in your backyard.
Right.
We have encountered this conversation before, but now we've taken the steps to Ed's
Okay.
point to
Fair
take the
enough.
next steps.
Thank
All right?
you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
My name's Bruce Hagee. I've been with Pound Township for 50 years or so.
Hey, Bruce.
Susie and I have had many conversations about this. I wanted to just emphasize and underline the health issues with deer. I've had Lyme's disease. I was very sick. I was bedridden. I hope you never get it. It's not pleasant. Well, you could say, well, don't go out in the yard. Don't go out and pull around in the grass. I'm a gardener. I like to be outside. I have the right to have a garden and so forth. And the deer They do not carry the disease. The mice carry the disease. The mice then transfer the ticks. The ticks pick them up from the mice, and the ticks go onto the deer, and the deer drop them in the grass. There's two new viruses that have just come to the forefront with the black-legged ticks, which are the deer ticks. One is called a Pitwasson virus. And according to the Center for Disease Control, its symptoms can include fever, headache, vomiting, weakness, and it can lead to severe neurological issues. That's in the area now. It's been being carried by the ticks that are in this area, the black-legged ticks, which are the deer ticks. There's another disease that's just come up. It's being carried by the black-legged ticks. It's called bourbon, a bourbon virus. It's called a bourbon virus. It's been recently detected in Long Island. Same kind of symptoms and sicknesses associated with it. It's called bourbon because it started in Bourbon County, Kansas. It's now in Long Island. It could very well be here shortly. So these are real medical issues for people, especially elderly people like myself and our friend over here, because it totally incapacitates you and is life-threatening in the end. And the deer are the vectors of this. So whatever we can do to get rid of them, we're not going to get rid of them, but we can, as we say, I've got herds of deer walking through my yard every evening. I have to go out every morning and clean up their feces everywhere. You can come to my yard and see it because there'll be more the next morning. I'll show it to you. You have to watch where you walk.
Well, thank you, Bruce. I think, again, I echo that. I think we hear it and we are taking those next steps.
Susie, just a quick consensus. I mean, is there anyone, or fellow board members who advocate for doing nothing on this or open it in the action?
Well, Ben's point about eligibility versus slow, I know it was making slugs, not right. So it was angry or straight shots. It's an option.
All right, Joy's going to make a quick point while we mull on our consensus.
My name is Joy Berge. I live in Flowertown, and I have a suggestion everybody in this room can do that will help you avoid Lyme disease. There's a company called Insect Shield, insectshield.com. I'll send it to somebody. We can put it on the website. You send them your clothing. So all the clothing that I have that I wear outside, they treat it. It then makes the clothing 75 times less likely for a tick to crawl on it. This stuff works. I've been doing it for years. I crawl around in my garden. I'm in the woods all the time. It works. Insectshield.com.
Doesn't work if you live in a U.S.
I can't help you with that, Jim.
Thank you, Joy.
And I'm not on commission.
Thank you, Joy.
Small section.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment? They'd rather do nothing for the record.
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody who wants to do nothing. I think it's just some of the constraints, because some of our neighboring townships are doing things, but, they have parks that are 2 and 3 times the size of all of these parks. The suggestion of some of the private properties, whether they be open to it, but certainly worth exploring. But even like a large property like LaSalle is still adjacent to a lot of buildings and other homes. So, I think we can explore everything and see what's possible. It's just, we're not dealing with the same set of circumstances that Cheltenham has and that the government has and that things.
It ends up being small scale, it's still more than nothing. Right?
More than nothing.
Even if it's a small hole, it's going to cut down everywhere because they're always moving around. You know that.
Because to be clear, no one's saying that we should do nothing.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But I kind of fall where Ben, fell. It's like, I don't want to hurt these people. You gotta be pragmatic and for the greater good, you do it for this.
I feel that's where we've landed. Right, I think so. I think we understand where we're going with the deer conversation, which is frankly to be continued and has continued. And we're going to get a program drafted up for us to consider, it sounds like. The next item that I have here that audience members are here for is natural lands, which is tab K in the packet. Earlier this year, we were talking about getting proposal from the group Natural Lands to assist us with open space preservation. And Mr. Framath here can describe to us a little bit more about that. Why we leaned on him for that, because he's been working with Natural Lands in Lower Salford, right? In the
Yeah,
past.
yes, I have. And I think Mike has been in direct contact with Natural Land, so you can certainly fill in some blanks. But I do serve as solicitor to Lower Salford Township. We just went through a ballot initiative, an open space referendum for an increased earned income tax to fund the acquisition of open space in the township that passed at a very high rate just last month. Natural Lands was engaged by the township there to provide consulting services in connection with forming the referendum question that went on the ballot, as well as the public outreach associated with the increased tax, which was very successful. So my experience with them was very positive, and I think Mike has had some direct contact with some folks at Natural Lands, and I think obtained some additional information for the board as to how Natural Lands might be able to help Springfield Township.
Mike, do you have anything further to add in your recent conversations with Natural Lands?
Summarized it very well. I've also been in contact with the township manager in Lower Southwood Township, just to get his thoughts on, hey, where their services needed, were they worthwhile, did it seem like good value? And he, basically said, honestly, I don't know how we would ever gotten it off the ground without them. I mean, they've been through this in many other municipalities. They kind of know what to anticipate and help guide the municipality and the elected officials through it. So, if you're going to pursue something along these lines, I think you need to have the assistance of somebody. I mean, Andy and I could write an ordinance very easily, but I think the public education component and some of the other things that Natural Lands offer to you, and they're a reputable nonprofit organization that does many different things with regard to open space preservation and conservation. I think that we need somebody like that to kind of stand beside you as you go through this.
It
Yeah.
seems pretty reasonable for that kind of undertaking. It's over a year with huge ramifications, huge revenue ramifications. You're asking people in the public to support it. You need a kind of.
Yeah, they can kind of tell you whether it makes sense to do it in a general election or a primary election. Primary election, we close primaries here, so folks who are independents, don't normally vote. Now, if you have this as a ballot question, they can vote, but most of the time, those people are so tuned into like, let's primary, I don't vote. They're probably not going to be paying attention. Natural Lands brings that up and says, hey, better make sure you reach out to these people because everybody could be 100% in support of this, but they don't vote. It doesn't necessarily pass. So it goes into it.
The prompt we have here is essentially to, whether it's the appropriate time to invite the representative from Natural Lands to come and provide an overview of the referendum process and answer any questions. I think that seems from the conversations we've had indicated that we would like to have that happen. It seems like it's prime time to have that conversation. Does anyone have a disagreement on that? All right, so then we just invite them to take the next step. I mean, to be clear, what we're talking about is inquiring this group to come and help us figure out how to put this for referendum. And by this, I mean potentially a tax for open space preservation. So there's probably still more to discuss about how exactly the dollars get used. And we've talked about that in the past, that distinguishably, if at Lower Salford, they had a property they were ready to protect and all the other arrangements had been arranged and they just needed to secure the funding essentially. And so that informs the conversation as well as to what the strategy for open space preservation we intend to employ. But I think those questions can be asked of Natural Lands when they are here.
Yeah, and I would just add, I've seen their presentation and it will start from the beginning of the process with a pretty detailed explanation of the act and everything that goes into it all the way through. So I think if they do come here, they'll do a nice job explaining the entire process to the board, which will prompt a lot of questions and then a decision moving forward. So it's very thorough. They're very, very knowledgeable. And I think it would be very informative to have them here, just based on my experience working with them. Right.
Just to clarify, when you said that the understands that was connected to the property purchase from the township, and to be clear for those listening, that's not necessarily involved why we are investigating this. We're looking at it from the anticipating funds, the strategic going forward, less about we have our items on right now, and this is what we tied to the purchase.
Correct. Yeah, in Lower Stopford, there was a specific property that the township had under agreement already. And natural lands, I'm sure that they would tell you this, have worked with municipalities in situations where specific properties have been in mind and also where no properties have been identified. And it's just, more of an effort to acquire open space parcels if and when they become available.
You remember for some period of time here, when the Hosley mower track was an issue, we had discussed that. Didn't, right? Probably listening.
All right. Well, sounds like we have a plan to invite them to a future meeting. Is there any other comment on this topic from the audience? To the microphone. Sorry. Sorry, Ben.
For those of you who probably know, we actually have all three of our members of our open space subcommittee here today. Just that, so I do agree, long-term planning, nothing immediate. And a lot of the townships around us have already enacted this. And Mike, I can send you the ordinances. They might be a year or two old, but I've already pulled them. They all do it a little bit differently. So I would just encourage the commissioners, what makes sense for us, look at our peers, but they all do it a little bit differently, have different intents. So we can really create something of our own. And if you need my help or want me to join anything, reach out. Happy to. Thank you.
Right. And I think that's a good time to make a shout out to the EAC and the Open Space Subcommittee. There are folks who have been working on this topic for some time, have been studying it, and we're primed to engage in the conversation. To Beth's point of clarification, that's why I was explaining that there could be more to come, more conversation to have, and Ben, pointed to it definitely there, that there's more conversation to have about what it would look like, what type of taxation models we're talking about, and what the goals of those models would be. That's all swimming in a circle right now. We're not in a very clear direction, but we're gathering all the information, right?
Dan, are you volunteering to be entering thing?
All right. So then that's we have one more public comment that I'm aware of that wanted to be made. Is there anyone else who has a comment on something on the agenda? Oh, okay, so there's also community choice aggregation. Would you mind if I ask the individual who wanted you the public comment to allow her to make that public comment, please?
This isn't quite as exciting as some of the other topics, but I'm here today about the crosswalk at Mermaid Park. I'm a frequent user. I go there once or twice a day with my dog. It's still difficult to cross. There are 2 signs, which I put in that note I sent. I don't know if people don't see them or what, but I think people don't understand that it's the law to stop. And there's been times when I've been out in the middle of the crosswalk and one person has stopped, but then the other person's like zipping by on the other side. So, I mean, it's not safe. And there's lots of kids, much more use of the park by kids and people, baby strollers and dogs. I mean, it's pretty active at certain times of the day. I mean, you could go down there and nobody's there, or there could be lots of people.
I think
But-
this is not a new topic to us. We've talked about this particular crossing a number of times, just probably in the past 6 to 8 months. And so I think you're asking us to do something more. And then I think my follow-up is remind us what we did last time. And if not, if there's some other investigation we need to do, I would
Sure.
support it.
So many years ago,
Mhm.
you'll recall, there was no crosswalk whatsoever.
Right.
When we did the improvements in the park, we created a
Mhm.
crosswalk. The crosswalk included a regular two parallel lines that went across the street. Right, we designated, what I'll call the old style crosswalks, right? That included handicap ramps on either side of the street so that people could get across safely. When we started to receive comments such as those that you're expressing tonight, we enhanced the crosswalk by putting in high visibility or called continental crosswalk.
Right,
so that it
it's
stands
brighter.
out. We also put up the fluorescent green signs that stand out a little bit more.
They're up high.
Well, they have to be at a certain height under the wall.
Yeah.
That's where we have to happen. I think we're at a point where there's probably two things we could do immediately. We could put advanced signage up in advance of the intersection.
Okay.
If there's a crosswalk ahead. I think there's like chevrons that you can put leading up to the crosswalk itself. I've seen them in other places. I don't know what the warrants are for them, but we can check with the traffic safety department to see if there's something we can do. I think one of the things you have to recognize those, and we all do as pedestrians, though, people are driving cars that have got a whole lot of fancy gadgets on navigation. People have cell phones, Paul knows well, you can't do that anymore.
Right.
People are distracted, right? So that one person who stopped, and then there's another person coming the other way that doesn't stop. They could be distracted. Like, so as a pedestrian, we all have a responsibility as well. Like, look both ways and then look again and make sure you've got enough time to get across there. And don't assume that somebody's gonna stop. We get a
Oh,
sign
I
in
don't
the world.
assume at all.
Yeah.
I mean, they won't even stop unless you're in the crosswalk. Like you have to be stepping.
If you're not planning, nobody's done.
Well, it's-
Coming out of the car, and then this person stopped. And then the speaking with somebody coming, so stop next to them.
So I think it sounds like we can take the next step with traffic safety again and just check in with them and see if we can't take these other incursions. So thank you for bringing it
Sounds
up.
good.
All right, thank you. Community choice aggregation, which is tab I for everyone's benefit who's in the book. Brendan, would you want to cue this up?
I think there's some asking questions that I wasn't, able to put the answer for everybody. What it is there are, different municipalities that are putting together to negotiate energy prices amongst themselves. But there are some nuances to it with the different classifications, townships and municipalities that are out there. What we're talking about here is just submitting a letter of support, for this. Not necessarily to adopt it ourselves just yet, but just, it is something that is gaining traction. And, several townships in our municipalities in our area are having some success getting some lower energy prices for the township following, seeing the offers that other municipalities as well. So, I think it's something that we were looking to possibly support, and then, down the road also think about whether we could follow something.
And the term is community choice aggregation, TCA. I know we have members over EAC here. If anyone wants to speak to it, please do.
Hi, Aaron Stumplewitz, Winmore, also chair at EAC. I'm happy to try to answer any folks' questions they have on this, but I think as Commissioner May has teed up, this is more of like a request for the gates to be opened so that we have the option to consider this sort of program in the future, as opposed to taking any action like right now is whether or not we want to do it or not, because right now we can't. Right now the gates are closed. And we can't leverage our buying power here to potentially lower prices or potentially procure cleaner energy or potentially do both. So this request is more in line with that. As far as who the recipient of this would be, my understanding is that Springfield Township is no longer part of the Pennsylvania Association of Township Supervisors and instead only a member of the Pennsylvania Association of Township Commissioners. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Right. And so the idea would be right now the Philadelphia Solar Energy Association is looking to build momentum in order to potentially get legislation passed, allowing this to happen. And one of the ways in which that can happen is advocating before the PA, the one that we are, the commissioner-based association. They are smaller and probably maybe less influential, but they're the one we're part of. We can obviously send it to both because my understanding is we used to be part of the other association, which is a little bit bigger. But any sort of like support is helpful here. To the extent there are specific legislators that we could also target, I can find out who that would be, who the sponsoring legislators would be. I don't know who they are offhand right now.
So just
And ultimately, this rests at state law.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I think I read that boroughs can do it now, but not townships. What about second?
Boroughs can they can put out the bid for electricity on behalf of their residents, but what they can't do is the opt-in, where they basically are automatically into this unless they conscientiously opt out of the program.
Correct. And there's litigation going on throughout there's Commonwealth Court litigation. I don't know if it's gotten to PA Supreme Court yet, but there's also litigation about this. So they're trying to figure it out through legislation.
could I-
Make it a little more clear.
Is there a bill pending in either the House?
Yeah, you can.
Very-
Ronald, no more.
Does he know? The answer is yes. Here it is.
Yeah, there's a draft bill that is in place, and that is through there's an ad hoc group I've been part of this for many years. I've been backing off a little bit. Have to say no to some things after a while, but anyway, there's a draft bill that's in place. In fact, we already have a primary sponsor that's ready to step up to the plate for that. And that is Nate Davidson, I think, who's going to be taken on. It could be introduced within the end of the month at this point or sooner. I want to also add that this has first, we went through a lot of different ways of first going to the PUC and trying to say, hey, we were trying to do this, community choice aggregation thing. And we know boroughs can do it. They have a home run rule. They can actually do this stuff. And just wanted to let you know about it, not to wait for the PUC to give the thumbs up. It's like, we want to do this anyway. And they really started to put the brakes on and cause a lot of trouble. So that's why we decided to go the legislative route. And the interesting thing is that this was a very recent development that it was brought to the PA State Association of Boroughs, which there are like over 900 of them in the state of Pennsylvania. And they just basically to have a resolution to support this legislative draft or a bill that's going to be coming over. 93% voted in favor of it. Now, 93%, I'm not sure exactly what that meant, like were they all there or whatever, but that was pretty amazing that they had such a high number of support behind that. So that's just kind of like, sending the message going forward on that. And just lastly, when it was brought up to the PUC earlier on, it was PICO who actually, as many had put in a filing for intervention. And this was back in October, but just the other day, they decided to pull that back. And they are basically not going to have any oral argument and we're not going to file any further issues with it, which means that they were kind of backing off on the whole thing, which was another promising direction for CCA to go forward. So I don't know, any other questions?
Could I just reset a little bit? The request here is to ask that we write potentially a letter of support of community choice aggregation programs to the audience that for whom this support could be helpful, right? We're not exactly saying that we're ready to jump into a CCA.
yeah.
We're not saying
Nothing binding.
that we are ready to
It's
you
more
know,
about
have one here
supporting.
in town, but we want to support other municipalities, even those that are smaller than us, to encourage this opportunity for other municipalities. So this is really a request for that. To be clear, this is distinguished theoretically from a future community choice program. And what
Yeah,
they're talking about is organizing in such a way to collectively choose a provider, which theoretically could be all solar, all geothermal, 50-50, whatever it is, that isn't PICO, and then require that all residents of a municipality use that provider. And the rub that's happening at the state level that you're talking about is a discussion about whether it's legal or appropriate to opt in, opt out, and all those other challenges. But at this juncture, and my understanding is because we are part of the first class township as a code, as opposed to the second class, well, the other code that covers everyone else, we don't necessarily, this is not targeted toward our band of municipalities at this point. And the request from the group now is that we write a letter of support.
I think
And
what was before you is a resolution.
Right.
And I think if you're on board with that, I can send a copy of the resolution to the State Association of Township Commissioners and would believe Mr. Valentine. We have no reason not to believe him. Our state representative and our state senator,
Right.
since they may see some form of legislation, before them.
Yeah, it's about supporting the legislation, really, more than even the essence of
Because
what it is.
Commissioners are just gonna lobby for it, right? Like, that's all they are, the lobbying. But your state rep and your state senator, they're the ones who are gonna carry the vote.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
And I use letter of support colloquially, but what it functionally is this resolution that you're discussing.
Correct.
Who would oppose this? Is it the utility company?
Well, yeah, but I think the biggest rub, the hardest thing for, I think, a lot of folks to swallow, I was even talking to my wife about this, Patty, and when she heard about the opt-out thing, she's like, forget it, I mean, there's a thing about opting out. So opt out means that, of course, that everyone automatically, it's agreed that the township's going to do that. Suddenly you're with PICO, and suddenly you're now with this other, within the township. So you can opt out easily, no problem, no penalties or anything. I go back to PICO if I wanted to, and you're all good. But it's the perhaps the the act that you are suddenly within a group put into position, where, hey, I didn't select that. I have the freedom to make my own choice, that kind of thing. That's probably the biggest contentious issue on this. Even though you probably pay less going this route.
But we would only enter that agreement if it would be advantageous to what the people would rate, right?
Yeah, it would almost be, there's almost a guarantee that the rate will be below PICO's rate. And maybe not a continuous. I mean, things are a little bit volatile, but the intention by far is to be below PICO's rate. That is the whole point.
Otherwise, why would we be?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Any other questions?
I was thinking about it really well for a lot of people. Choose this number of this, that, there's something thinking about that. Why, why Amazon really opt in?
Well, okay, the opt-in thing already exists. You can choose your third-party supplier right now. And some of the, going back a little bit in history, that all started in the late 1990s, that you could choose, that we had deregulation going on in the state. And the PUC, in fact, was very much pushing for, hey, there's a third party, you can make your own choice. You can get away from your local, or your default supplier and choose. And a lot of people did, in fact, do that. But it turns out that since then, there's 75% of all residential customers are back with their default suppliers. they've got discouraged. They've seen escalations go out the wazoo. People that do a lot of auto pay their bills, and all of a sudden they see their bills are like, oh my God, what happened? So people got very discouraged, and they all went back to their default supplier. So that's the reason why the opt-in tends to be a much slower process, and there's a lot of discouragement that they would want to go that way anyway. So it would probably the program would probably not survive, if it were an
We
opt-in.
would have to negotiate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the most comment I would say. I've had neighbors in he has been a very good thing in Michigan, and after 2 years.
Yeah. Not paying attention. Yeah.
Even if you catch it after the third month, you
Mhm.
still pay
Mhm.
$400 extra for 3 months.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, you're back. So
Right.
that's
And that would be the intention, of course. I mean, because the township's behind it, and you do have an administrator who's working with the township, overseeing this stuff. But that's the best interest to keep all your citizens to get in the best rate. So there's not going to be any, behind the scenes escalator that's going to go through.
This doesn't control the cost of energy, it just helps farming. And so I feel like.
Well, except if solar is the cheapest and the fastest deployable energy supply right now, resource, and say. So if you in fact were to have your electricity coming from a solar farm, if you will, that is very controllable and keeping the costs down of electricity versus having volatile gas prices going all over the place.
So it's not just production from the solar, there's
Yeah.
still transmission, right?
Yeah, but that's part of it. That's part of it, but it's really supply. A lot of it's supply and capacity too. That controls capacity. We can get details and all that, but
Yeah, I think one point is to consider is whatever this resolution is, it could be vague or more specific if there's a specific bill that we can reference and our solicitor makes a point. If that's primed, probably better that we help lobby for a specific bill if it would help. Or I theoretically could be more vague and just something to work out what that looks like.
yeah, I mean,
And
once
Mike
the-
can help draft it.
Once the bill is like ready to go out, we can
Okay.
pass it on to you
In
guys.
your book,
Yeah.
in your book that I'll modify.
Okay. Well, Andy was just
Yeah, I
saying,
was just saying, it sounds like it's a draft bill. It hasn't even been
Right.
submitted
Oh,
yet.
yeah.
Right.
This is
So-
just a
Yeah.
resolution that says, hey, we're all in favor if this comes across your desk.
go
We
for it.
consider it.
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
Understood.
Great. Well, then that brings us to the conclusion of our public comment period, at which time we are going to go straight into the book because we're in the late hour and we'll do our committee reports afterwards. Any other comments before we go right into the book? All right, into the book we go. Thank you all. A, B, and C are done. A, the Grove Avenue right away. And indemnity, again, perfunctory thing to do. The land development at Willow Grove Commons, it seems like we diced that up earlier, unless there's any new thoughts. Brings us right to our township manager report.
Okay. Within the hour, I will try and go through here rather quickly.
Well, I'll do the first one. I owe you a letter. Seems like we have a nomination on Susan Circle for a beautiful Springfield Award. So thank you for that. And I emailed you already a draft for that, so you can have it by Wednesday.
Bird-friendly habitat. The Friends of Mermaid Park have been gifted a sign from the Pennsylvania Audubon Council to designate Mermaid Park as a bird-friendly habitat. There's a copy of the sign in your agenda material. It's not part of your agenda book. If you're okay with it, we'd like to put it up.
Oh, she has the sign. It's beautiful.
It sounds like they're okay with it. If you want to leave it behind, we'll make sure it gets up. Okay, with that.
Thank you, Beth Selaski, our
It comes
newest
with gifts already.
EAC member. Please. Here, I'll hold it for the cameras to see. Go ahead.
I think the original, in my email, the original position, I think we've changed our minds. That's the only thing. So I don't know if you want me to
We'll be
send.
guided by you.
Okay, great.
Trash.
Thank
Here,
you.
I'll pass it around if anyone wants to see. Pass it back. The herb garden, so no objection, that's going to happen. The herb garden, in conjunction with Weaver's Way and also Backyard Eats, who is in Flower Town, they're willing to, make a donation of materials and labor to install it. I just need to formally draft a proposal here for Mike to be sure, we have some waterers and people to maintain it, so on and so forth. So that should be forthcoming. And then basically as soon as we can schedule it, and Mike's going to pass around to the library committee, hopefully via emails, so that we don't have to wait until the end of the month when they should meet. So we can get the green light or any other feedback needed. So that's the latest update on that.
Tab I review. Let's say tab H.
Tab H. Tab H. By Joy.
Oh,
Oh, wait,
should we tell Joy?
Joy.
Quick jump to tab H. We have the 3-year term of service of Joy Berge, who is here, and Martin Ryan as members of the EAC. They're due to expire. And we need to confirm your interest to get reappointed, Joy. Joy says yes. I suspect Martin will be the same.
Yeah, I'm in front of the He doesn't seem like he's slowing down.
So
Now you can go home.
thank you, Joy, for all that you do and your work in this late hour as well. All right, naturalized landscapes.
Perfect segue from Martin Ryan to naturalized landscapes. Susie had asked that I put this on, in the manager's report, because I think Commissioner Goldberg wanted to talk about it. I think, and I believe that this came up, property on Glendalough Road, that was given a high grace of weed violation letter. Person believed that they were, practicing a naturalized landscape and that, there shouldn't be an issue there. When he contacted Pat, our code enforcement officer, Pat explained to him, where the issue arose. And I think she explained, oh, well, that's a special so-and-so kind of grass that, with the naked eye and everything else, it looks just like a long grass. Clearly, there's one portion of the property that, he's got some other plants going in and like he's got a purpose going on there and maintains it. But on the opposite side of his driveway, it just looked like it was an area that because he doesn't have to cut a front lawn because of these other plants, he just didn't cut this particular section. And the neighbor that adjoins contacted us. So that's how we got drawn into it. So after we met with Pat, explained to Pat what it was, Pat said, okay, all you gotta do is put a strip here like, against the neighbor's thing. I think we're okay. But nevertheless, it's not good.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, a lot of this depends on past discretion, so we just want to, it's not really writing that is naturalized. In state laws, permitted in certain circumstances without writing their ordinance.
The problem is, Rob, that that's a piece of paper. It's gonna say these naturalized landscapes are legitimate and permitted. In this particular instance, there was this certain type of grass that this guy planted that he believes is part of a naturalized landscape. But to me, to Pat, to anyone else, still doesn't look like that. So like, somebody gets a letter, they don't get a civil citation right away. They don't get drug into court. They get a letter that says, hey, we got this complaint. We believe you're in violation of the high grass and weeds ordinance. Contact me, bring it into compliance within 5 days by cutting it, or contact me so we can discuss. So that's where we get our education, I guess. But by the same token, I think you have to recognize that not everybody, as many people as kind of like turned to this kind of like landscaping, not everybody's 100% on board. And we're in the middle of it all. Whether it's codified and permitted by, a piece of paper or an ordinance, or it just kind of exists and we just do our best to try and be reasonable about it.
So I was trying to marry this topic with, a few months ago, Martin and company did bring a naturalized landscape ordinance to our attention. And to Mike's point, I'm not sure everything needs to be legislated per se, but perhaps there's a marriage here where you could have a memo on file that actually encourages this, that you could whip out and say, hey, we actually for the complainants as well, that we actually encourage naturalized landscapes. I don't know what the language is, and I haven't.
Policy.
Right, as a,
Policy as opposed to ordinance.
right. So like a policy memo, basically, so that you have it in your files, in your back pocket and Pat's back pocket, whoever code enforcement is. They have something to reference to for both complainants and people who desire to do it alike. And then that education can grow as we all learn more, but, and then at least we're relying on those reasons also to say, hey, we already, to your point, we already have use our discretion to make these calls, and this is the discretion guideline that we use. That's what I was thinking.
What if there's, you charge the EAC with putting together best practices for naturalized landscapes? Like if you want to practice this and you want to do this, here's what we recommend, either just like the no mow
It's like an
maintenance.
education.
Yeah.
Right, and
Yeah.
I think the strip near the sidewalk is really visual. Out about this, about, yeah, we take it, because not to be able to eat readily and possibly very people are losing it. To even know people will not disrupt you. So, people don't want to walk past, by ground, so it shouldn't be close to the sidewalk, no matter what. I agree with you.
Well, again, some sort of memo could be drafted to help guide this conversation. Certainly educational, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a full-blown ordinance. Right. And then you can rely on that. Staff will rely on that for both
It's kind of like the
complainants.
deer we put out. That's not for all.
No.
That's
Right,
practice.
exactly. And also for those who, again, who would complain, but we actually realize that it is maintained, you have something to rely on. And look, and they maintain it to as close to best practice as we can. And in this case, maybe we make them mow an extra 20 inches. That's that, right? Just wanted to clarify that where we can. So ask EAC to help with best practice document.
Good, check it out. Speaking of objectionable vegetation, there were a couple of us who received calls, over the last week or so about the grass at Parson Valley that needs to be cut, like it's being maintained, along with some overhanging vegetation and some other stuff. I contacted the trust that's responsible for the maintenance of the property. They had solicited bids for, both of those activities, and this Saturday, I believe the grass was cut, and it should be cut weekly going forward at quite a sum, for 16 acres, so I wouldn't want to have to pay the bill. And then give you a little brief update on where they are with repairs to the barns and, the cottages and those types of things. They're in the process of getting a, underground fuel tank removed, that was used for the maintenance department. So that's kind of still in progress, all those things. East Mill Road, Sean Hart is working with some neighbors that approached him about heavy truck traffic on the street as well as speeding. So they've been, out actively enforcing, the weight limit for the bridge on that street, as well as, utilizing the NRAD speed enforcement device, to try and identify and educate, people about speeding. So, we also put up a portable radar sign there.
How do you know the weight of the truck?
It's listed on the, DVW on the truck, and it's also by the tag. And a tractor trailer isn't permitted, like, so that's an easy one, like, you don't have to really have to, like, a box truck is probably okay, but a tractor trailer is not. On that road.
Are those, yellow leaves still in the
Where is this? Oh, the headache bars? Yeah, well, that is a deterrent for the trucks, like, there's no, oh, yeah. Any of the high top vans, yeah, they get hit, people with ladders on the top. Yeah. They get stuck. Yeah. Cromwell Road, I will give you an update on the speed enforcement activities that are going on there. They did a 2-week period with the NRAD before school closed, and they were surprised that they only got 7 people stopped. And the word must have got out among the students, they're thinking. But 7 vehicles were found to be in the enforceable range, 4 got warnings, and 3 were ticketed. But they'll hit it again in the fall when school resumes. So,
You know, the tickets were during stage two.
I assume that one, based on what I was talking about. I don't think any like residents that live there were ticketed. I think it was students. In your materials, that you received, there are two of the fire company audits are in there. We generally pay the, annual stipend to the fire companies once they present their audit from the previous year. So Orland and Flowertown, submitted theirs. Quinmore had done theirs, last month. Everything looks to be in order, and kind of interesting to just follow the financials for both of them. And the disparity between the two is eye-opening too. Most of that's because of real estate holdings that Flowertown has and the rental income from that. But Portland does a good job, with the donations that they get, and they're pretty savvy. So they're both in good shape financially, which is good. McKelvey Park basketball court, that's exciting news. They've been resurfaced. We had one delay. The blacktop plant had a malfunction, and we couldn't pave on the day that it went down, but we were able to get back at it the next day. So they're done. We're just waiting for the paint contractor to come in and restripe it. And in the process, we got new player benches, and Jim has been working with the Next Play basketball group, who you saw last month, to get new pads for the poles and new nets for the backboards.
So, what do you think? Those were in the ground?
Yeah,
What makes them?
yeah, they were like the log, like piling that, a homemade kind of thing. So we got some new ones.
What year was that third? Taken out?
When we did the playground, when we redid that, so probably 17 or 18, I was the assistant still. Yeah, we had some money left over in the grant, and we had a contractor on site, and it was failing, so we had it taken out. Solar project that's continuing along nicely. They've had a couple of scheduled projects elsewhere that they've had to pull off for on a day here and a day there, but the equipment building is 100% completed. The main public works building, as of last week, had 60 panels installed, but all the racking and ballast are down. I imagine that they've made a pretty good dent today over there, putting additional panels on there. They have to wire them all in together, which is actually pretty neat. It's all just plug and play, but that's all got to get done. And then they have some other significant electrical work that they have to do with disconnects and things like that. But they'll probably move over to this building. I would assume maybe not next week, the week after, because they have another day this week that they have to pull off to go to another project. But it's moving along nice. So happy. Ron's,
Will be generated.
I would say by the fall. Let's say by the fall. We have to get the approval from Pico, but I think we'll be ready to go well before the fall. 616 Halls Lane, you heard from Mr. and Mrs. Nero last month. Tim went out. They had complaints about stream bank erosion. And many years ago, we were able to secure a grant from the Department of Environmental Protection, which is done specifically to protect homes that are in very close proximity to a stream. Their home is about 7.5 feet from the stream, and met the criteria. They put in a stacked rock wall. Mrs. Nero doesn't seem to think it looks the same as the one that was done across the street at the corner of Church and Hawes. I think it met all the specs and the requirements for the DEP engineer at the time, who happens to be the same guy that's there today. And he knew the contractor and was satisfied with the work. So I don't think that there's a problem with that. I just think that there's other areas of stream bank that are eroding and causing them some concern, but they're not anywhere near their house. So Tim met with them and put them in touch with the engineer from DEP as well. So nothing more we can do there at the moment. And the next two things are executive personnel matters, but nothing significant.
All right. Any questions on the bill listing? Any questions on the zoning hearing topics or sites?
See, John,
Yes.
So the second one, that we feel like, I think, is there any prerequisite that people have gotten fencing approved?
No, we have a 6 foot limitation, the 8 foot, like if it's been done, it's been like a utility company or something like that. And I think they have an exemption under the PUC for Homeland Security standards. But, you know, if anybody's had an 8 foot fence, they have to come in and kind of like present their hardship for it. Hard to believe that they really need it. But it's probably something related to a dog or something that, you know, can leap a 6 foot fence, but not an 8 foot fence.
Or deer.
Well, deer, I think can get over that too.
You're not recommending that we discuss.
I think with the zoner bill that Andy, although Andy's dying to go out and argue
Over 2 feet of
over
fencing.
8 foot fences, I'm sure.
You're Victor Lemon out there. Finish your call.
Recycling report, any questions?
You notice that there's a revised recycling report in your folders today.
Yes.
And good news is, we only had to pay 80 cents a ton for the disposal of it. I'll
Wow.
call it the processing of it.
Wow.
That's because plastics, with oil being higher, plastics
All
have
right.
brought in a lot of revenue.
All right, guys, recycle your plastics, everybody.
Is there any specific products that have a high return rate?
The natural and the uncolored stuff.
Like
Natural,
water bottles?
yeah, like, well, or like, your milk jugs,
Yeah.
like the big milk jugs. Water bottles are clear, they're good. As long as it's clear, if it's a green, not as much color, it's not.
Stop drinking Mountain Dew. All right.
More reasons than one.
For more reasons than one. Joy and Martin, it seems like no issues there. Community choice aggregation we discussed. We had the deer, we had a very lengthy deer conversation. Natural lands we discussed, terminal.
Michael Matthews. He was in Public Works.
Yeah, he was hired, he was one of our summer help employees, and that's why he has to do the internship with us last spring. And while he was doing the internship with us, I don't know whether there's a lot of jobs out there in public health or not. I think he interviewed for 1 or 2, didn't get it, didn't get those jobs. He knew we were advertising for a position on as a recycle laborer. He applied, and you know, he was one of the recommendations of the guys who were on the interview panel. So we give him a shot. Michael's been with us for a few years. Nice kid. Goes up to work every day, works hard.
3 years of seasonal.
Seasonal, yeah. Yep. And during like winter break, that type of thing, he'll come back.
Is he a resident?
Yep. Yeah.
You did a great job.
Yeah, he did a really good job. Intersection of Terminal Avenue, Erdenheim. Officer Hart doesn't believe that any of the warrants are met for an all-way stop condition at this location. Yeah.
No, no, the,
Well, I mean, it's an argument. I think the issue is that it's not likely to be us to stop like the notion that the balls people, you know, people that say it was really I need to see it on the ground, you know. I need to see it. When you see a paper like now, you can't do it. It's, you feel like it, you feel it, and it's doesn't.
if it meets very specific warrants, you can put one in.
Right? You should know that plenty.
Yeah, I think it's typically if it meets the warrants, you can put it in. If it doesn't meet the warrants.
So I feel it's not like.
Right. Yeah.
I think the discretion is whether we choose to investigate the stop, the intersection, and then also put it in once, and also once it's warranted, we have to put it in.
Yeah, once you
essentially.
determine that it's warranted, you have to put it in, then you have a
Legally
liability
speaking,
on your
legally, we have
hands.
to do it.
Didn't you put it in for one aesthetic lifestyle? What kind of property?
Yeah, so-
Like if you're in town, like you may buy property.
Yeah, if it was in internal to like a shopping center on private property, you can put speed bumps, stop signs, whatever you want, anywhere you want. I live in a private community that's not a publicly dedicated road. we could reduce,
Normally stopping this.
It's you follow the manual, right? Mike, you follow the PennDOT manual on traffic.
So we would
Traffic
try to
control
say,
devices.
put in a stop sign and they would, therefore.
they would do that and they would withhold your liquid fuels funding.
They might look at you with the fuels funding, right?
The manual finally. Right, on the other state guard and things to be.
Right.
Regulation.
Right. Yeah.
So you have the manual on uniform traffic control devices, which is recognized nationwide. Then you have PennDOT. PennDOT has their own set of publications, which are their rules and regulations that if you have a publicly dedicated road that you're going to accept liquid fuels funding, which is the tax that we pay when we fuel up at a gas pump every day. If you're going to accept those funds, you're going to play by PennDOT's rules.
That applies to all,
Yeah.
Right, and it's.
that applies to all roads, not just.
Oh, yes, correct. All publicly dedicated roads from which you get liquid fuels funding. So like Penn Manor Court, Sandy Run Circle, non-dedicated roads. That homeowners association can put any kind of traffic control device they want up there. Now, there's really nobody in there to enforce it, but they could put up stop signs at every intersection if they wanted to. Eagle View Drive, not a publicly dedicated road, same thing.
They also don't get the benefit of the plat.
They don't get the plows, they don't get, frequent police patrols. They don't get street sweeping activities, they don't get any of those things.
Well, you really wanted some sort of traffic calming at that intersection of some sort, right?
Yeah, it's the one for the. All it is, the ups are all of the road, but it's not, the line. That is on. The delivery from the guy, it well. It really is, it's, we're all getting. That's what this is. Well, that's the.
Right.
Yeah, since there's no stops.
It's perhaps that, right, traffic volume or the triggers, the primary trigger.
And sight distance.
Sight distance.
Well, I
It's
don't,
volume, it's sight distance, it's crash data, it's all those things.
well, yeah, I was gonna say, I think you're talking about,
So it's not gonna work, it's the people who work it. The truck guys are fast, but. We must be on, we rank, we must be, they have to fit, it's like being for.
Yeah, they get like a quota.
Or it's an incentive.
10,000 and a half.
mhm.
It's not their fault.
Yeah, no, I understand. You're saying you wanted, in general, we're looking for traffic calming, but as it turns out, a stop sign does not meet the warrant, so we can't really do anything there in that regard, but maybe we gotta think a little further about other things we could do.
I would share my philosophy, Rob, that if there was somewhere that for some reason didn't do this, but it just doesn't pass where we should do something, I would fight for it. Again, I have fought for it. But I do think it's important to have some sort of standard because even if it wasn't state mandated, like there's a million such things. Should have more stops.
In the same conversation we had with speed bumps.
When you say yes, and you say no. How do we-
I mean, I think we've had this conversation with speed humps, speed bumps, et cetera. I mean, there's a variety of ways we've had this conversation, but standard is necessary, but not only that, legally necessary to meet.
But if there's a true dangerous situation, I don't want it. I don't say no.
Yeah, I'll talk to Tom, obviously, you get the. But I have actually find that actually it's truly a dangerous situation out there. Just watched it. So, well, it's over.
Well, that's everyone's fear. Yeah, that's what everyone's fear is like, oh, well, there's gonna be a crash.
Would one of the.
Because we live with the side of the field. You are not going to get.
What we can do is try to do it safely, but, you know, there has to be the rule, where we get the.
You're fine.
And just to reinforce the point, stop signs are not. Right. So traffic, we talked about this last month, all the trails that they're doing.
Well, let's ruminate what other interventions might come to mind in the meantime.
Do you think one of the portable radar signs, if we rotate that through the neighborhood, it would help? Man.
Great. Direct all the deer to this intersection. Next is the Public Safety Committee Public Safety Forum is, what is that? June 18th. Yeah, if they have a presentation or outline, maybe just loop in Beth, Jim.
Your folders tonight, there's an outline.
Oh, perfect.
It's just an outline. He's working on a PowerPoint presentation.
Wonderful.
It's got the topics that you.
Yeah, and I would encourage anyone to come and speak on these various traffic intersections and places and spaces where we'd like more intervention. Skate park seems like we're well good there. The Spartan Lacrosse Club, we did that. The canopy project, that's wonderful and appreciate volunteers doing that. And then the rec center, and that brings us to the end of our book. We have a couple executive items. Do you have any other non-executive?
Do. Three things. Cheltenham Avenue, road diet.
Yes.
Feasibility study. They would like to come out to your August meeting and give you a presentation to kind of wrap that study up.
Wonderful.
Feasibility study up. If that's okay with you.
Great.
It
It was a great
it was a
event
good
as
turnout.
well. It was a really good turnout. This room was packed.
And people were engaged.
People
And
are
asked good
very
questions.
engaged.
The other thing, in your folders tonight, there is an Orland Artisan Market that is going to be
Cute.
held on Sunday, June 28th at the SEPTA parking lot, train station there.
Wonderful.
So I just wanted to give that to you and make you aware of that. Something we're really involved in. SEPTA okayed that.
Who is the meeting?
It is Parkside Haven. Great to have one in there, wouldn't it? You're gonna need some kind of like private. There's a little ticket office in there. When we went there was somebody in there. We met the family. When we walked the, remember it was air conditioning and everything in there? Somebody was in there.
It's very limited hours.
Regional rail, and basically you walk up to the platform.
Tap in.
Tap it in.
And then you go on the train and there's.
They
I
confirmed that you
haven't
came
done
in.
it since I had
Yeah.
federal jury duty.
I know. All right.
Last thing is a fuel use and reimbursement agreement with the Montgomery County Police Chiefs Association. This is for the FIFA World Cup events. We have a MERT truck here that the Major Incident Response Team utilizes as a personnel carrier and kind of a command station. And because it's housed here, usually they could go and they could get it fueled up by the time they need to use it a second time, but they're going to be using it almost every day.
Sure.
So it'd be more convenient for them to fuel here, which is not a problem. But we want to memorialize it through an agreement. And if you're okay with it, I'd like you to approve it so that we can get it authorized.
Sounds perfunctory.
And I think that's it.
All right. We did not do our committee reports, but I think we talked about a lot of topics here. Did something happen in a committee or not happen in a committee that anyone would like to notate?
We just, we get a statement section so that we can ask for the sharing as well.
Sure. Historic Commission, just a heads up, I think that's deeper conversation, but we skipped this month. Next month, we're due to have a meeting. It's on my to-do lists. Personally, I feel like the best way forward there is to kind of consolidate information into a presentation of some sort that we can share at commission and also here so that we can collectively ruminate on where we'd like to be from a historic preservation point of view, where we'd like to be, where we are now, where we'd like to go. I think these are outstanding questions that would help guide the next steps for that commission. All right, and planning did not meet too much last month, if at all.
No, it's next,
Yeah, so,
Yeah,
All right.
you have election day, and then we get election day, and then.
all right.
It's on.
In that case, that concludes the public portion of our meeting. We are going to head into executive session where we have 2 executive items to discuss. Thank you, everybody.